What is shaking, everybody? Welcome back to the Spins Vinyl channel. You are in the right place right here, right now. We're about to kick off another episode of Your Brain on Vinyl. And of course, my partner, Chris, is online. What's up, Chris? How's it going, dude?
It's going good, Jason. It's snowy and cold in New York.
A little snow never hurt anybody, right? Or how is it out there when it snows?
It's cool when it snows. It's the days after. It's rough ice, raw, freezing. But I don't mind when it snows. Just afterwards, it's kind of a pain.
I feel like New York is one of those places that is like ready for snow when it happens. Not like Wilson, in my area, it's kind of like in the Portland area, it's sort of like, everything shuts down when there's like a half an inch of snow. We don't know how to deal with it out here.
Oh, that's true. I never thought about that. Yeah, some areas they get like 2 inches and the world shuts down for 3 days. Here,
Exactly.
That's like par for the course. So.
Yeah, when it snows out there, people just get their snowboards and attach to the back of a car and just go through the streets, right?
Pretty much.
What's up? I was almost going to say, what's up, Group Seeker? If you're out there, folks, let us know. Talk to us. Shout out if you guys are in the stream. Let us know you're out there. All right, today. So what are we doing today? Today, I think we're going to have some fun. We got vinyl collecting resources. And I just thought it'd be kind of good. Last time we talked about grading records last week. I thought that was fun, an interesting conversation to have. A little, we try to keep it entertaining and educational. So same thing today. Today we're gonna get into. I just thought, man, there's these sites that I use, some of them, and others I'm just learning that I think can really benefit everyone. And there's one site particular that I use all the time that I never hear anyone talking about. So I was like, all right, let me get into this. I think this would be a good time to do this and get Chris and I together and show some of these. So apologize, I'm just getting over being sick. Probably hear me cough today, but yeah. So I'll show some of these sites. Also, would love to hear, of course, what you guys think about these sites. Also, what resources do you guys use that we're not using? Is there anything out there that benefits you? It doesn't even have to be a website, even though that's what I'm going to show today. It can be any kind of tips and tricks or something that you guys know that would be helpful for anyone to hear, as this video will live for all time on YouTube. And so people can go back and refer to it and learn some of those things. So let's kick it off. Let me share my screen here. Ba-boom. So maybe this is one a lot of people have heard of. It's not one that I really use, if I'm being honest, but I had to show it because I know this is a big one. So Popsike, right? Popsike.com. Have you heard of this one, Chris?
I have, yeah.
Or do you use this site at all?
Not really. I've been on it before, but I don't use it a lot.
Yeah, similar with me. So this is a site where, what's up, Cesar? Good to see you. Good to see you. This is a site where, for people that don't know, they will aggregate all history of sales from eBay. As far as I know, it's just eBay. And that makes it a little bit, I just feel like the reason why I don't use it is because it just feels like it's a piece of the story when we're talking about sales history. If you use this and you're here, send us a message. Let us know. Maybe there's something that I'm missing on this one, because I just don't use it, if I'm being honest. So if we go, like, we'll try to do a search here just to kind of step people through it, and maybe you'll find something here that you can use. So let's search for an album. Let's just say, we'll say Out to Lunch. Another thing about, and we'll just leave all these the same, I think. No, yeah. No, let's jump this back to, wait. That's as far, okay, so this is sales data then. Okay, so this is going to give us history. I got it from 2003 to 2025. I mean, that's cool. There's the prize bit. Okay, everything looks okay there. Let's just do a search. And here we go. So here is, and we can filter this, which is cool, or we can sort. So we could sort by, say, newest to oldest, which is what I'm going to do. And we can see some of the newest sales to the, sales that happened a long time ago. Here's my problem with this, Chris. I mean, for one thing, it's just eBay, and that's fine. The thing is, on eBay is we already have access to that data. So again, please tell me if I'm missing something, guys. Patrick, what's up? Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. We're going to jump into some cool stuff tonight. So that's for one, right? Is that we already have access to sales history on eBay. So it's like, okay, this is all in one place, I guess. That's cool. And it's just records. That's cool. So maybe that's better. The other thing is on eBay, and we talked about this last week, is that eBay and Discogs differ in many ways. In one way, it's great that we get to see photos of the records on eBay as opposed to on Discogs, which doesn't allow you to upload a photo of the specific record you're selling, right? So here we get to see that. But eBay doesn't have a way to easily filter certain pressings like you have on Discogs. So if I'm looking for a specific pressing, especially with a record like Out to Lunch, right? This is going to be every single pressing. I don't see a way here, and I could be wrong, but to filter for pressing, for example, right? To me, that's a big missing link also, Chris, is like, I have to go through here and see, okay, obviously we've got a couple classic series I can tell just from here, but otherwise I'm kind of relying on people's descriptions. Ultimately, I'm going to have to dig through here and see. So here's $275. Okay, 64 first blue note mono. Okay, that's good to know. $275. I'm looking for one of these. But anyway, so yeah, I don't know. Again, I don't use this. I know Patrick's saying he doesn't use it. What's up, Vinyl Kick? Vinyl Kicks, appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for being here. We're just going over some resources that Chris and I use online. Let us know if there's stuff that you guys use that we don't know about. Anyway, Chris, does that make sense? For me, it's kind of like I don't use it because I feel like there's already a resource on eBay. This is just a separate site to get that same curated list. And two, I'm not going to get the same kind of data I'm going to get from a Discogs. Now, I am going to get, if I look at Discogs, I'm only getting the sales history for Discogs. If I'm here, I'm only getting sales history for eBay. I guess if I create a database or a spreadsheet, I can, put those two together and then make some sense out of it. I mean, I know you don't use it either. What are your thoughts on this, dude?
I don't know. At first blush, like the first thing I saw was the mixing of the pressings. That could be confusing for people.
Yeah.
Thankfully, there's like a hype sticker you can quickly see, and even some of the alternative ones, like that one with the yellow branding across. I don't know if that's part of the record or if that's just
no. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see. Let me see if I can zoom in on this. Hang on a second. I just realized you guys probably can't see that well. So they're giving you like bids. So here we got that gold bar says 17 bids. The blue one right here says 8 bids, 10 bids. So those are the ones that were up for auction, and it tells you how many bids they received.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to look on eBay, I would use some of the filtering mechanisms there, and it's hard to search for specific pressings unless people in the details of their listing put the year, they put the pressing in the title. Like, you can certainly find that, but it doesn't aggregate everything into one list. I'm sure there are, specific pressings sold that weren't labeled properly that you couldn't tell if they fall into that category or not. But I don't. I mean, I've been on Popsike years ago. I've heard people talk about it.
Yeah,
but I haven't really leveraged it. I don't know if can you buy on Popsike also?
I don't know. Yeah, I wish I knew more about this, guys. I brought it up because I know there are people that use this. From what I understand, if you go to their like about page, it basically says that this is just sales history from eBay. All aggregated that you can filter through and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. And so they basically tell you like, oh, don't price your records without consulting our website first. It's like, I've never sold a record by consulting your website first. So I don't know, man.
Yeah, I Vinyl Kicks mentioned this last week that he prefers selling on eBay and he buys from both eBay and Discogs. I list them simultaneously. I just have to pay attention. It's very rare that I've ran into conflict where one sells and sells right after.
Yeah.
But I just have more success on eBay. And
so when you're pricing your records on eBay, are you gauging your sales price based on Discogs and or eBay? How are you doing that?
Kind of both, but on eBay, one of the strategies I use is I'll go to similar items sold, and I'll look to see what people are paying for it and kind of assess that versus the Discogs. from there, I'll decide like if I'm going to do free shipping or not and stuff like that. If it's usually on higher priced items, I'll eat the shipping for people. But it depends. I mean, I don't. I think there's enough data just from like my knowledge, and then between the two sites that I usually price things pretty fairly, and usually a little bit under market, especially if I just want to get rid of the pressing.
I guess it can, like if you do say like mono, it'll just show you anything. But I'm guessing again, it's just using what's in the title. And you can also select to search the description too, I guess.
Can you
So
highlight Patrick's question?
yeah. Patrick says eBay for the most part is more for the Amazon type shopper who wants a particular item. Discogs is for the meticulous collector. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then the question right above that, right above Mr. Pettyworth.
Oh,
Patrick
sorry.
asked
Okay,
something.
there's
That's
Patrick.
okay.
When selling on eBay, any tips to get more views? I list some records and there aren't many views. What do you say about that, Chris?
So there's a multitude of things you can do, and they're all kind of interrelated. I'm going to rank them in order of beneficial to the seller. So the first and foremost, you should fill out as many details as possible on your listings. Like they even have things for composer, era, genre. First and foremost, that's probably the most important thing. Second most important thing is take as many pictures as possible for the listing. So a lot of people just put like the cover or a stock image and maybe like a picture of the vinyl. I do front, back. I take a picture of the barcode, take a picture of the hype sticker, take a picture of both sides of the record. If it's a gatefold, I open the gatefold. I go one side of the gatefold, other side of the gatefold. The more pictures you have, more likely you'll get views. The second thing I've found is, and this is not related specifically to records, but sell anything you can on eBay, especially stuff you're just going to kind of throw away or don't have use for, even if you, as long as you're not losing money on it, even if you get a few dollars for it, you start to build feedback and ratings. That's certainly going to help. The last thing I've experimented with, but probably not enough, is you can actually add a boost to the listing. So they take a higher percentage out. I mean, it can really add up fast unless you're selling something premium that
you don't really get charged unless it sells though, right? Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, you don't get charged unless you sell, but you're talking another 5 to 8% to get that ad rate. And sometimes I've done it where I'm selling something maybe more pricey, and I know that eBay is going to have inflated prices anyway. So I'll do that. And then the last thing is, and you really have to be strategic when you do this, especially on records. If you can afford to do free shipping, especially with the media mail, I would do it. So if you want a record that you want to go for $25, like list it for 30 and list free shipping, you're bound to get more views. And the shipping rates on eBay with some of the discounts they offer are much more advantageous than the stuff on Discogs. And I think Discogs is actually upping their USPS rates. I don't know when. I think it might even happen this week, but I saw an email. I didn't pay much attention to it. So, you're not gonna build a huge following on eBay overnight. You're gonna have to really stick with it and maybe sell a lot of other different items to get your ratings up. And I've had this eBay account probably for over 15 years. So I've sold a lot of different things besides records. And when you get to a level of transaction and positive feedback, they recategorize you as different user types. So if you're a power user, you probably get more views. I don't know the details of it. Like I said, I'm not an eBayer. I just happen to sell on eBay when I can, based upon that. I hope that helped, Patrick.
You know what I do also, this might be helpful, is I'll search, like you said, right? Did you want to search the sold listings, first of all, just to get an idea of what people are paying for this? But you can also use that sold listing as a template. So you can hit like sell one just like this or sell one like this, and it'll pre-fill out. And if I look at a listing and it got like 30 bids and it got like, I know there was a lot of activity on it, meaning people had no problem finding that, or it's using keywords that people are using. Use that as your template. I think that helps a lot. And so I'll get as much, even the description, I might steal stuff out of that too, and then just customize it.
Well, one thing on
it-
that though, sorry to cut you off. One thing on that,
no.
I do that, but more for easily identifiable items like reissues with a barcode and stuff like that. But you
Okay.
still have to you still have to check those templates because other people make a ton of mistakes. Like
Right.
I've taken a template that where the record's clearly used, and I've taken that template and reused it, and they had it as new. And like that's the type of stuff that'll
Yeah.
get you dinged by on feedback and whatnot.
Absolutely. Yeah, make sure you go through it and like you're exactly right. Like even if the grade is different and stuff like that, you'll want to go through and change all that. But just in terms of getting a good title, getting some good keywords in there, obviously, just like Chris said, is like make sure that you modify it to serve the purpose of your actual record. What's up, Mr.
Well,
Pettyword? You go ahead. I'm gonna just go through some of these comments when you're done.
yeah, I'm gonna just say this too. I've in all my time on eBay, I've sold 1,100 items, not all
Nice.
records, and I have positive feedback of 731. The only negative feedback I ever got was on somebody who was basically abusive after the point of sale, and I didn't even ship. I canceled the order, and I guess I didn't follow eBay guidelines because I don't have a right to cancel it. So he gave me negative feedback, but
Uh,
all of that helps. And you can see, like, as you progress, selling on eBay, and over time, you'll see you'll get certain milestones. They'll allow you more free listings. They'll allow you more free listings per month. They'll give you uh, kind of incentives for being I guess, a power seller. So, that's all stuff that you'll see benefit you. If you have 4 transactions over 5 years with 2 points of feedback, like your listings just aren't going to get noticed as much.
Sorry, I'm still sick, guys. If you're just joining, I'm trying to like, I'm coughing, doing a lot of coughing, so I'm like muting myself. Um, yeah, that's all good stuff. I don't know if I've sold any records, but I've been selling on eBay for probably 20 years. I have a 100% seller rating still. So fortunately, I
Nice.
haven't like had that issue that you've had. But
Well,
yeah,
I
it
I
doesn't.
still have 100%, but it's just that one piece of feedback, and I don't even see
Oh,
it
oh, I
anymore.
gotcha.
It
Oh,
looks
okay,
like it fell
okay,
off already, which is great.
got it, got it. Um, Perfect
Maybe I'll
prescription.
give
What's
maybe I'll give my eBay handle out because I have some really fun records up there for cheap later on.
Yeah, great idea, man. We'll throw a link up in there. What's up, perfect prescription? Good to see you again. So we got a great resource, Popsike, another tool in the kit. Well, heck, share whatever tips you have because we're gonna be moving on here in a second. But we'd love to know. Just drop them in the chat. How do you use it? And sort because Chris and I were just saying when we first opened up that we neither of us use it, and so we're looking for kind of what's the cheat code for kind of understanding why Popsike is a really good tool. What else we got here?
Same with me, vinyl and kicks. That's funny.
When looking for something rare and really expensive, that one you're talking about?
No, vinyl and kicks just selling off a lot of my sneaker collection throughout the years on eBay has paid for a lot of my vinyl purchases. I'm in the same boat.
eBay could be a wild card, says Mr. Pettyworth. If you have especially rare items, example 45s that were made in extremely rare quantity can go for big bucks just depending on the demand. Yeah.
Well, you have to make a conscious decision too. Not everything should go up for auction. I've actually very
Mm.
rarely put something up for auction. It's usually a buy now, and sometimes I don't even put an offer on there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Uh, oh yeah, sometimes I just like what I did recently is I took a bunch of stuff off the shelf that I know I don't want anymore, and I just put it up there for a price. And if people take it, they take it. If they don't, it'll just sit in a box or on my spare shelf. And when it gets sold, it gets sold.
Music in the house. In my Discogs listing, I list links to the images. Oh, that's a great idea. That's a great
That is
idea.
cool.
I don't remember seeing
Yeah.
anyone do that before, dude. Instagram is good for selling if you have enough folks following. Yeah, and obviously Facebook Marketplace seems to do well too. Something I'm considering because I know a lot of people are looking at they don't want to pay those fees, right? So whatnot, eBay, Discogs, any of those platforms are going to charge you a fee. So it's kind of like, I haven't sold on Instagram. I know Instagram is supposed to have a service. You have to have it connected to your Facebook. You have to create a store in Facebook and all that. I shouldn't even open this can of worms. I kind of got the ball rolling, but I assumed it was kind of a live auction thing. Maybe they'll get there. I don't think that's how it works. Maybe if you guys know, you guys can. I'm talking about the what I thought that they branded it as live selling on Instagram, but I haven't actually gone through all the steps to figure that out yet.
I used to buy up until about 5 or 6 years ago. I used to buy a decent amount of records on Instagram, but it was from. It's kind of a, I mean, it's a buyer beware thing too. But I vetted the 2 or 3 people I used to buy from a lot. They're actually pretty reputable. But
Yeah.
basically, they'd post they'd go on a run of like posting maybe like 15 records, and like you would just say like sold, and you would DM each other. And I, knock on wood, I never had an issue. I always got really cool stuff. But
yeah, that's my thing, dude. That's my thing is like, do you have to worry? Like, it's like you don't have any seller protection or anything like that, or buyer protection for that matter.
Well, there's a couple of ways around that, I guess, and you probably know this a little bit more than me. But first and foremost, I'd vet to see if they actually have a site. All of them did. Some of them were like stores,
yeah,
in other parts of the country. And then, you don't buy like out to lunch first pressing off somebody on Instagram. You kind of test the waters first.
If it sounds too good to be true, then just be cautious.
But you could also have them send you an invoice on PayPal and stuff like that. There was a lot of ways, but once you build up a relationship with them, it's a pretty reputable thing, and it becomes a great resource. You can message them, say like, hey, I'm looking for, like, they're not a store, they don't have a storefront, so you can message them and say like, hey, I'm looking for these, and I've had luck when I was going after all the white label Steely Dan promos. I found a couple through people like that where I'd message them and say, hey, do you happen to have this? And they're like, actually I do. So then it worked out.
That's a hot tip, is that, if you're trying to just get to know some of these sellers, to start small, develop a relationship, and then, maybe get into some bigger titles. Mr. Pettyworth, USPS rates just went up today, I think. Curious timing on that one, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's just on Discogs, I think.
Okay.
I don't know if that's for everybody. I'm not really paying attention.
Popsike is great. Sales history database for decades. Okay. Yeah, we'll check that out for sure. Yeah, it goes back, I think it said 2003. Final Kicks. eBay have a great Facebook on eBay. It makes it easy to sell all kinds of stuff. Chris gave great eBay tips. Pretty much the standards I go by when selling. Just being really detailed and accurate about your item description. When record selling on eBay. Selling a lot. And then you mentioned this one, selling off the sneaker collection. What's up, Chasing Records? Live auctions are thrilling. People get into bidding wars. I like the live auctions too, and I sell on Whatnot. I love it because of just like the personal touch. Like, it just feels like it's like if I owned a record store or brick and mortar, I think having auctions would be super fun because you just have like all this engagement going on. And with Whatnot, you can just chill for a couple hours and get into conversations with people and stuff. And I've heard a lot of like negativity around the Whatnot stuff. I haven't really found that. I feel like people are bright enough to know how they want to spend their money, and I think there's this like FOMO thing, but I mean, there's FOMO no matter how you look at it, in my opinion. If I see something on eBay, I have just as much FOMO. I have to worry about somebody hitting that buy button before me or on Discogs and stuff. So I don't know. I think live auctions are fun.
I stayed away from Whatnot until I connected with you and saw that you sell. So now I have like a bunch of recommendations. So I'll pop on once in a while. And I'll tell you, man, like, and I'm not just saying this because we do the show together. Like, no one presents like you do. I watch these guys like in their garage or whatever, like mishandling records. Like, there's no engagement. They just kind of like sit there and wait. I mean, there's a couple of cool sellers I've seen. I haven't bought anything from anybody on there but you, but it's kind of I think it's just it's volume to access all of that stuff rather than like production quality. So if you guys haven't checked out spins on Whatnot, it's not only a fun show, but he puts up really, really cool stuff all the time. One other thing about eBay too, for those curious about selling, you have to hound your buyers for feedback. Like
Yeah.
I mean, just I'm looking at like my past 4 sales on here. All 4 of these sales, I've exchanged messages and threads about the item, what else they're looking for. They've gotten it, no feedback. And like I have like a copy and paste. I'll send people like, hey, feedback goes a long way. Like, please send it. So that's the other thing. And on Discogs too, you have to remind people to leave feedback because a lot of times people
Yeah.
forget. I don't think Discogs makes it too easy either. At least eBay on the app, you can quickly jump on and do that. But you got to ask people to give feedback, and you have to give feedback. You should always be giving feedback.
This is another thing I'll say about it. It reminds me of Whatnot, which is, and it's a miss opportunity for sellers, is that to me, Whatnot adds this extra layer of like social. There's a social piece of it where you once somebody buys something from you, you know, you can DM people and stuff, and that's harder to do on like Discogs and on eBay and stuff like that. And you know, like I don't know, there's just some. I've had people just hit me up for stuff, you know, and we just message back and forth, and pretty soon it's not even about selling records anymore. It's just about, oh, have you heard this, or I have a friend that's in a band, you should check it out. And it's just, you know, so I just feel like you have a real opportunity on there to kind of build a community. And anyway, not to hype it up too much, but I love the potential of it. Yeah, I wish more users or sellers kind of created a more warm environment for people. But yeah, I think there's a opportunity there, potential there.
Well, eBay makes it so difficult because they flag so much. Like if they suspect you're
Yeah.
gonna sell or do something outside of their guidelines. Like I remember I said, to somebody, oh, what a pain in the ass, and they blocked my message. I'm like, they blocked my message. I had to like take out pain in the ass, and it went through. So they're really monitoring that stuff. I've even somebody, this was years ago, somebody did something from a feedback perspective, and I think they just put the wrong feedback on the wrong item. But I called eBay when you used to be able to call them, and they saw my whole chat history. Like, oh yeah, this is wrong. We'll just reverse it for you. I'm like, oh great. Like,
yeah, they
anyway.
just have, they have like AI in there doing a lot of the work for them, and yeah, there's just a lot of room for mistakes. Vinyl and kicks, I always do buy now. Never done auction listings. Know the true value of an item you're selling. What's up, Wyoming Dave? Thanks for being here. Good to see you. Just use common sense and caution when being online, and it'll usually be all right. Just use said it repeated. I just was never into auctions, just not into it. Rather buy some. Yeah, I get it. It's definitely not for everyone. It definitely is not for everyone. And I think that's cool. Is there's different, you know, there's all these different ways for us to kind of. Some people will only go to record stores. Some people will only buy on Amazon, right? So there's, at least we all have access to the things that that we support and feel most comfortable about. Pennyworth does not like Whatnot, but it's funny to watch people get declined for insufficient money. Yeah, right. Fortunately, that doesn't happen that much. Yeah, it's kind of a pain when that happens. You got to kind of stop everything. That when I make a sell on eBay, I send a message asking nicely to give positive feedback. Yeah. I think I bought something from you once, Vinyl and Kicks, says Pennyworth. eBay freaking fees can really suck. Yeah, I know. All right. Let's jump in. I kind of shift gears here just because this is kind of a general stream about actually let me I don't know where that, there we go. About collecting resources and stuff. And so we're just talking about Popsike. Some people use this quite often. This is an aggregate of all history since 2003 of sales on eBay. So I can see this being helpful. Neither Chris and I use this as of now, but who knows? Maybe we'll find a good reason to use it. All right, next one I want to show is, just going to take me a second to key this up, is a site that I discovered when looking for, I don't remember really how I found this initially, but you know, I was trying to look for record labels. Like how do we know the difference? I'm trying to blow this up the best I can in these different labels, right? Like if you any of these like Columbia or Blue Note or whatever, this is CVinyl. So actually let me change my banner here so you guys know what I'm talking about. Was that the one that was already showing? I don't know. CVinyl. Anyway, CVinyl.com. This is a resource. And in fact, they have a lot of different resources on here. I haven't really dug into this one, but you can check this website out. Price guide, vinyl for sale. I use this for the label guides. So if you go here, here's an example. Let's go check out Columbia. We'll click on C. And here's Columbia. It'll give you a brief history of the label. But most importantly, and I find this is cool, if you either memorize your favorite labels or keep this site on hand on your phone when you're in a record store and you're not sure what era a record is from, right? I feel like I'm much gonna be more comfortable using this than like checking out the actual what am I trying to say? The code in the dead wax, right? Matrix code. You could do that. You can look it up on Discogs. To me, that gets a little tedious. If I know in general what labels came out when, here's a 6i, US label. It tells you right here, third US Columbia label, 1956 and 1962. So let's say you're buying this Bob Dylan record and you're looking at a 2i. You might be like, I don't know if the 2i is an original or is it the 6i. You come here and it says, okay, 56 to 62. You know that Dylan was a 62 record or whatever. And so, yeah, it got a 6i probably. Tells you when the 2i's came out. Like, here we go. This is a fourth US Columbia. Between 62 and 63, they did the 2i's in black on the bottom. And then they changed it to white between 63 and 70. The other Columbia labels we know and love, right? Santana got these. I think, I'm trying to remember if Journey got these also. But yeah, so 1970 through the 90s, we got this label and then other label. It goes through every variation. This is really cool, I feel like. Again, if you're in the wild and you see something like this and you just want to get a general idea of the era that you're dealing with, this site is invaluable to my way of thinking. And it's not difficult to memorize some of this stuff. So if you just want to know, like, okay, what about the 3-4 top variations of this label? Okay, 56 to 62 got a 6i. 62 to 63 got the black printing on the bottom of a 2i. 63 to 70. Everything after 70 is going to be this one. Okay, boom. And now when you're in the wild, you can sort through that pretty easy. Just for the sake of it, let's check out like Blue Note. The Blue Note, Jazz Lovers, you guys know this label very well. This goes through all the variations, 51 to 57, a Dress On label, 767, Lexington, goes through all this in detail, 57 to 58. What's different about these labels? When did it change? So now we got this label, right, with the black and the... Anyway, so 70 to 73, 73 to 76. So it's really, really a great resource. You guys get the idea. I've used this many times, and it's great for, like a Bobby Hutcherson who got different Blue Note labels on his records, and you want to know just a general idea. Okay, this says it was pressed, and this album came out in 1971, but it has a white B on it. That's going to be a reissue. So anyway, I just thought that was cool.
I have a question on like the early Blue Note stuff. Like, how much detail can you get about the label on that first variation? Does it let you like drill into this at all?
I assumed it would let you like click on it. No, I'm not.
Because there's also some subtle details that a lot of people know about, like the registered trademark is not on first pressings. It's on the second. It is on additional pressings. There's like some subtle differences just beyond the label. So I was just curious if it gives a narrative at all.
Well, like even the dead wax with like the P and all that stuff and the RVG and everything. Yeah, it's a good question.
I've seen this site, but not used it. There's a store I go to where they have somebody identifying and pricing records full time. Like that's all this dude does. He's an encyclopedia. So he had it up on his like iPad or whatever, and I was like, "Oh, what is that?" And he showed me this site. I didn't remember the name of it. But I also want to comment too. Shout out to all the OGs that didn't have the internet and knew this stuff cold.
Right.
You know.
Well, in Blue Note specifically, you're right. There's going to be a lot of other details. This might not be their best resource. I assumed these were like clickable, but they're not. So I don't know why you can't drill down there. But there's going to be a lot of other labels. I think this is going to be handy. We can check out Verve real quick, and then we'll move on, because Verve got a bunch of different labels, and sometimes it's like, is it blue or black? Is it they got black during the 60s? So this, but also tell you like label is usually, why isn't this giving more information? Sometimes it'll be like the mono and the stereo looks different. Sometimes it'll be like certain categories got a certain color label and others didn't. So yeah, I don't know why that's not clickable, but anyway, you can see kind of.
I'm trying to reply to Vinyl and Kicks, because maybe other people are wondering what website this is. When I put the website in, the YouTube blocks it, but it's CVinyl.com. C as in the letter, vinyl.com.
Yeah, just CVinyl.com. And in fact, you can see it on the little scroller at the bottom of the screen. The ticker, it says CVinyl.com.
Jason, when you scroll up, can you make an account for this? Maybe you need to have access to get more.
Oh, that could be, huh? Maybe you're right. I'm not sure.
Although I doubt it, because it's
different on
chunky
a phone
site
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering, because there's more details there, you know?
Yeah, there is. I know. I feel bad for not. I didn't realize that was going to happen. I'm not sure why. But check it out. Maybe you guys can work around it, figure out what's going on there. I feel like on a phone, I didn't have an issue with this. I don't know. Maybe I don't know why I'm having an issue. Yeah, nothing's clickable or anything, but it'll tell you like which ones are the UK versions, which ones are the US versions. Like here you go. Like here's UK label variations on Verve and stuff. So I think it's really well done. I mean, everything's got a photograph. They're all sorted nicely. While you're doing that, I'm just going to check some of these comments. French Vinyl Addict, what's up? Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Some Ms. Pettyworth, watch out. Some 180 gram represses were using the 6i. Yeah, you're right. That's the other thing, right? Is that you want to have a little bit of information. Yeah, you're right. A lot of reissues get reproductions of the old labels. So you want to be looking for other, if it looks like a newer album, maybe the jacket seems too new to be true. Look for other dates and stuff like that. You're right. There's going to be times where that matrix code is going to be invaluable, but yeah, for sure want to watch out for that. Wyoming Dave, I have a Goldmine price guide that tells about labels and different label design. Oh, that's cool. Sundays would mimic the label, but I've seen Dylan reissues that attempt to recreate the same thing. Yeah, hopefully those Dylan reissues have a modern date on them somewhere. I don't know. Like sometimes they'll put the date on the jacket. It'll say like 2010 or something, but I don't know if that's the case there.
So on the mobile site, there definitely is more details. Like on the third Blue Notes, it goes into, this is kind of what I was talking about. I have my information wrong, but Blue Note Records, blah, blah, blah. No registered trademark symbol below the E of note at the bottom center, and no ink after Blue Note Records on the inner rim. So there's like these subtle differences. Those comments are worthwhile. It seems like on the mobile site, you can get it. You can get them. You're
cool. Right. That's good. Yeah. Yeah. I thought you could see more detail in there, because I know I've used this out in the wild before. Vinyl quality sort of changed from the late 60s into the early 70s. Flex like vinyl and styrene, says Mr. Pettyworth. Vinyl and Kicks. What side is being shown right now? So I think we cleared that up. This is CVinyl. CVinyl. I love all my Dolly Parton Dynaflex LPs. Cool. All right. So there you go, guys. Again, check this site out. CVinyl. It has a price guide and some other stuff here. I'm not going to dig into it. We have some other things to get into, but it might be cool just to dig into that too. This seems to be a pretty cool site. The next one I want to show. Just quickly, we did this last week, but I want to just show it because we should cover it for a minute today. Just the Goldmine standard. If you weren't here last week, we dug pretty deep into this last week. This is great if you're selling, if you're buying, just to familiarize yourself with it. this isn't a resource that I pull out all the time, but if you haven't familiarized yourself with it, it's a good idea to do so, just to understand it's kind of a language that we should all be speaking to identify grade of records. Obviously, there's a ton of variations within that, and we talked about it last week, but it's still a great resource. Goldmine, goldminemag.com. In fact, I'll just throw up the banner here, so in case you guys don't. Yeah, Goldmine. I guess I didn't put the website, but it's goldminemag.com. And that'll get you to the Goldmine standards. Let's see, next one. Let me just jump to the next one. We did Popsike. So next one I want to show, and I don't know, maybe you've used this before, Chris. This is, let me find it here. So the vinyl record shows calendar, and there's a bunch of these online. If you just search this, you're going to find a lot of different websites that have some sort of calendar. In fact, I think some places embed a master calendar into their sites and stuff like that. This site is called vinyltimes.com, and this is the vinyl record show calendar for 2025. And so this is kind of cool because you can see if there's going to be record shows in your area. I know for people that either want to sell at these shows, this is a good resource, or if you're just looking for something, like you're traveling, you're going to be in Chicago and you want to see, oh, when is this show happening? Okay, February 22nd. Have you ever seen this or used something like this, Chris?
Yeah, I have, but
Or know of a better one even?
I don't know of a better one. I've been on this, but then I started following the record shows like on social media.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, they
I
have
haven't
like
been on
the
this in
email and like
ages.
the Facebook pages and stuff, which is cool. So if you want to check out the Seattle one, there you go.
That's pretty cool.
So that's kind of cool. Oops. So yeah. So that's cool. I've used it a little bit. I know it's a good resource for people that like to do shows and stuff like that. And I know you've done some, Chris, since I've known you, at least one in New York, a big one. I was trying to find stuff in Oregon, and man, I just cannot find anything. I know they have shows out here.
I know it's what frustrated me about this back in the days. I don't think you could sort by location, right? It's just kind of.
Yeah, like you just kind of search on the page. So I'll go like, when I search Oregon, I get nothing. Or even OR, nothing. Let's check New York. Yeah, it's a little difficult to kind of search through. I kind of wish there was. Yeah, because it's still. Yeah. I wish this was easier to search through. If you guys know a site like this that you guys use, let us know. But I guess the overall point, and so I've even seen sites like this that have maps, and you can click on an area. It'll show you like all the record shows with a pin on a map, and you can like click on it and go around. So anyway, if you're someone that likes to do these record conventions and shows and stuff, this can be cool to give you an idea. But yeah, I don't know if it's a comprehensive list. This was the biggest list I could find. There are other lists on here that had portions of this list, but not everything. But again, is this even everything? I don't know. Anyway, vinyltimes.com if you guys are interested in that. So it's got, the cool thing is it does have the email and the Facebook page and Instagram and stuff like that. So if you want to follow them, you can get more information. Okay. Next one. Actually, I only have one more. Let's see. Ooh, sorry, guys. Still getting over being sick. All this talking making me. So this one was kind of cool. I don't know if this is for me, but this is just a resource that I found recently, which is this. It's strictly dedicated to 7-inch 45 records. So let's type in like Elvis Presley, sorry, and show records, we can get and we can sort through a filtered list of Elvis Presley 7 inches. So we can see. That's cool. So here's all the Sun records. And then we can get details about that record. Even has a price guide. That's all right. 3,500 to almost 6K. Shows you all the label variations, talks about some of the different variations. Sometimes, yeah, there's comments and stuff. That's cool. You get comments and stuff there, so add more knowledge. But so yeah, this is cool if you're into 45s, if you're into 7-inch records. This can be just another resource. I don't know. Check it out. Maybe some of this stuff's not on Discogs, or I don't know. This is just another resource for this stuff. So pretty cool. Heartbreak Hotel, 1956. Nice photos and stuff. So yeah, if you're a 7-inch person, you like this stuff, then boom, there you go. Why not just filter Elvis on Sun? Yeah, exactly. Well, let's see. I think I had it a second ago. Lots of ads. Yeah, so if you go to search, let's see. See what. Sometimes you never know what search criteria they're going to use. But anyway, here's some records that specify Sun in the description. Although these don't look like they're all Sun, unless these are. Is that just a Sun label I don't know about? No. So anyway, this could be cool. Someone who's more hardcore into 7-inch might find some value in this one. Boot Traders. It seems to be a European site. Which one are we talking about, Boot Trader? Are we talking about this one?
I think he was talking about CVinyl.
The CVinyl, yeah. All right. Well, we talked a lot about Popsike. Maybe there's some more value there, Chris, that we need to be aware of.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we talked? What did we talk about, Chris, earlier? We were talking about maybe showing original V reissues. Oh, I'm sort of forgetting what it was we talked about earlier.
Just like the preference or what your strategy is on buying originals versus reissues.
Yeah, kind of a side note, but yeah, we were sort of talking about, and maybe even making this a bigger stream, but just like, what is your strategy for, or even making a game out of it. If you guys watch these, you know I like to do a lot of games. We do a lot of the this or that and stuff like that. I did not prepare a this or that or a game for this, but it's sort of like, if you had what criteria are you using when you're buying a record? Some people, maybe they don't care. They just want the music. It doesn't matter to them if it's a reissue, an original, which reissue, what matrix code, could care less. The cheaper, the better. And just to have the music. Some people only want OGs. Some people, there's a lot of these reissues coming out, Chris, and it's like, we could get into Steely Dan. Steely Dan got a lot of nice reissues lately. In fact, I don't know if they did them all yet or if there's still a couple to be done, but that's a good example, right? It's like, why don't you explain to us? Why would you buy a UHQR or even a whole series of them when you can go out and buy these OGs for, like, I don't want to say pennies on the dollar, but a lot cheaper? What is what's the reasoning behind grabbing a much more expensive record?
The loaded question.
Not to put you on the spot.
No, it's okay. So all the sites you've shown, I've never used, because it typically comes down. I'm not in the phase of seeking out from the collection standpoint or the artifact standpoint or the antique standpoint of like originals or this press versus that press, US versus UK. I just don't have the space for it with the amount of records I buy. So for me, what happens first is the music comes first. So if I'm in a store and I'm going through an artist section and I'm like, oh, I don't have this. Then the investigation starts. Like, what pressing is it? What do I know about it? What don't I know about it? Pricing. There's only a couple of records, which I won't reveal on the stream to the public, that I am hot to get originals of, mainly because I know that from what I've learned or what I've experienced, the original is a different mix, or it sounds better, or it hasn't been reissued proper. So, first and foremost, it's like, it is for the music first for me, but then it comes the critical thought on the purchase. There's plenty of times I don't have an album and I see it, and then I look at the record or look at the issue and I'm like, I'll just pass on this one because I want something better.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I buy reissues? Well, it depends. I don't buy exclusively reissues, although it's been like that for a while for me, because there's this cost benefit analysis for me. So if the OG is a little bit better or a little bit worse, and I can get the reissue that I know is going to be clean, hopefully flat and done justice, then it's like the convenience of, all right, I'll just grab the reissue. I go in these phases where it's like, all right, I really want to dig and find something like OG when I'm buying, and then sometimes I'm like, you know what, I'm too lazy to like seek this out. I just want the music now, so I'll grab the reissue. And then there's some I have both, right? The UHQRs and things like that, that's a point of preference. Like, we beat Steely Dan up the past several streams, no matter where we've been. It comes down to a lot. Like, I don't buy every UHQR. I know some people like to, and I think that's a really cool thing to collect. But for me, it's like, am I going to listen to this album? Do I love this album? Do I love this artist? I like what they do with the UHQRs for the most part. So I'm going to get that. So like when it came down to the Steely Dan ones, yeah, like I got them all because I love Steely Dan.
Yeah.
But I also have white label promos of almost their entire catalog. And if I don't have that, I also have MoFis, or I have first pressings and things like that. So that's like an exception to the rule where I have multiple variants. And most of the time the UHQR sounds better. I think, not that the Pretzel Logic doesn't sound as good as like the OG, it just sounds different to me, in a lot of ways. So it's a convenience factor. And I think also it's, you're trading off, what's a reissue? 10% worse, right? 20% worse sometimes for X amount of dollars when you go find an OG that's clean in the wild, and it's 4 times the cost of the reissue. Like, you gotta make some decisions. Also, I'm really picky. I don't, when I buy something original, I'm looking for a pristine copy, which is going to inflate the price.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like low end of VG or G. Like, I'm just not going to. I'd rather not have it. So it's a matter of like availability, cost, quality, condition. I take a lot of factors. It just seems recently like it's easier for me to get the reissue. Perfect example. I was away for a weekend about a year and a half ago, and the Out to Lunch just came out on Classic, and I saw verified first pressing in a store, and it was 30 times the amount of the Classic. Like, I'm just not going to do that. And I actually sold a second pressing of Cannonball Adderley Something Else, which subsidized multiple reissue purchases. So it's like,
you get way more for your money.
Yeah. Now, if I drilled down and said, all right, I'm only going to have 500 records, yeah, I'm going to have the best of the best OG, but I can't live like that with my want for music. So
yeah,
I need to go out and get what I can.
Well, I mean, talking jazz especially, right? I mean, jazz is a game where, I mean, it's a lot of the if you collect jazz, a lot of the OG stuff is going to be super pricey, and or the stuff that you find is going to be very played. It's going to be beat up, and it's going to be it's even like a G or a G plus of certain records is like hundreds of dollars. And the stuff is so readily available now. for the most part, not everything, but the Blue Notes, the Prestige, a lot of the big stuff is you can build a nice jazz collection of reissues. It's just it's out there. And like you said, in terms of costs, like if you did the same thing with OGs, you're going to pay 10 times more or more even to get some of that stuff. Just
Well,
quickly, Chase. Oh, go ahead.
one other thing I have to say, and this kind of goes back to the what sounds better debate, and I think it's a lot of fun to go through that. But I don't begrudge anybody for just having the record, no matter what version it is. I really don't. Like, good for you. You have the music. That's the most important part. But I also grew up on CDs. So, and we've talked about this personally and on streams before. I got just the universe lined up for me. So as a kid, I'm exposed to all of this jazz I get into. People are giving me CDs. I'm going to shop for CDs in the city. I'm getting when people are able to burn stuff, they're giving me files. Like if you look at my hard drive, I was telling Rojas this a couple of weeks ago. If you look at my hard drive, you're hard pressed to find something that gets reissued by Blue Note or Prestige through Acoustic Sounds or whatever that I haven't heard before, I haven't had before. So now I'm taking my experience on CD, and that's my point of reference for the sound. And now they're reissuing all this stuff that I'm somewhat familiar with or really familiar with. So it's just a no-brainer to me. I don't have that point of reference of like hearing an original to say like, oh my God, this is going to crush it.
Well, and the thing with Blue Note is they're going to have a whole nother argument. People, and that's where, well, why would you want an OG Blue Note anyway, when they had to do all these gymnastics to get it to sound good on cheap turntables back in the 50s and stuff? You know what I mean? Like what they've done is actually bring out more of the dynamics. So a lot of times the reissues, really nice ones, can sound quote unquote better, or at least have a more balanced sound out of it. But then there's going to be people that just prefer the older sound, right? For like you said, maybe that's how they grew up and they actually, you know, they're used to listening to it that way, or they just want it that way because it's old, it's original, and whatever.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's, you know, if you like you talk to your parents or someone older who grew up on records like exclusively, and then they heard CDs, all of them would say like, oh, this doesn't sound the same, because their point of reference is connected to hearing it on vinyl. And it doesn't sound the same. It totally sounds different, but that doesn't make it bad. Now, I'm not saying that if you have the means to avoid a standard reissue that's mass produced, yeah, avoid it. But if you don't and you want that record, go buy the record. Who cares what people think? Because you want the music, right?
Well, and the problem is, I think the line there is that some of these where I think it starts to get murky, and where I've spent a lot of my time, especially last year, not so much now because it's just so much work, but even still, you want a nice sound. If you're going to drop $50 and you have 10 options, well, you want the best option. Sometimes that's the OG. Sometimes it's not, you know, sometimes it's like the Disintegration from The Cure is maybe an example that is kind of known to not have a great, it came out, I believe, initially on one piece of wax. It was probably compressed. There's probably intergroove distortion. And so they came, when they reissued it and remastered it and they put it out on 2 LPs, depending on which one you get, you might be getting a way different experience. So it's like, how discerning are you as a collector? I'll say I'm that discerning. There are certain things I don't get nutty about. There are other things I geek out on or whatever. And that's one of them. So I got like Beastie Boys reissues back here. I decided I need to put together a Beastie Boys collection. These are not originals. I actually had, I was going to purchase their first one, Licensed to Ill, an OG, and the guy didn't end up shipping it. So I just said, okay, he's like, oh, it's holidays and I don't know if I'm going to get to it. Okay, I'll just end up getting a reissue because it's supposed to sound good. All the ones I had, well, actually that one, Hello Nasty, is an OG, but all the other ones I purchased, they're not originals. I've had discussions with people in the past. Like, I don't know that there is a specific rhyme or reason for me. There are certain things that I just have to have an OG. Usually it's not expensive stuff. I'm not going to go out and buy reissues of like Journey records. They're too easy to get originals in nice condition. They're affordable. I grew up with them that way. It's nice to have the original jackets and sleeves and all that stuff. That's cool. It's not a, and if they came out and they reissued them and they were supposed to be like, yeah, I don't know. That might be more of an example to your point of like the Steely Dans. Although I'm still not spending $150 on Journey Escape or anything. It would have to be signed by the band or something. But anyway, I don't know. It's just there's a lot of different ways to approach it. And let me go through some of these comments because there's some good ones here. Chasing Records says sometimes I don't have to have a first press, but still like older copy. If I can find a clean one, I would choose a super clean repress over a beat up older copy. Right. I would think we would all agree on that. Well, I didn't say all of it, just Chris and I. Yeah, there's kind of a threshold, right? I don't need it if it's unlistenable. It's like I don't need it. It's not the kind of collector I am. I want to be able to listen to it, whatever it is. So yeah, it's got to sound good. And if the reissue is not, I bought my counter argument to everything we're talking about, Chris, with the reissues, that I've bought reissues that sounded like crap. And then it's like, I can't deal with this. I got to, sell it, return it, and get something that at least sounds better. I state that the Tribe Called Quest records that got, at least the two that I got out of big box stores for cheap, do not sound good. So then I went and got the, anthology. I guess it's back there. And they mixed that great. It sounds great. Like however it's mastered, and it got a different mastering and it sounds perfectly fine. I'm happy with that. And you and I have talked about other editions of those other albums and stuff, but that's a case where it matters. Like I'm not just going to have that for the music when I'm not going to listen to it because it sounds so bad. Perfect Prescription reissues make a lot of sense, especially if you are looking at super rare records from an availability perspective and you don't need the vibe of the original. Absolutely. Wyoming Dave, sometimes, but I come across the used jazz and big band albums that play great, but you do find crappy copies too. I know. Wyoming Dave, you are a magnet for finding great stuff, like constantly OG jazz and all that stuff. I don't think we're all so lucky, man. I don't know where you get all that stuff. Perfect Prescription, Tone Poets are a no-brainer. Exactly. Even the classic series, man, those sound great. I did a shootout for Out to Lunch and used a classic series against an OG 45 RPM Music Matters, a Japanese press, and man, the classic series stood tall.
That's the thing, right? Like to go on that point, it's $24.99 for a classic series, and maybe it doesn't
find them
sound
on sale on Amazon.
Right, maybe it doesn't sound good as Music Matters, but you're also paying at least double that retail.
Yeah, so in that case, you're paying like triple, more than triple. Exactly. Yeah.
And I think I am critical of sound. There are plenty of times I drop a needle on a record. I'm like, this sounds like crap.
Yeah.
Right. And then maybe I'll go look for a different version. But the devil is sometimes better than the devil you don't. Like, I don't have time, unless it's something very specific, to like go on a journey right now. Or I'm like, all right, I got these six copies of Sgt. Pepper's. Like, which one do I like the most? No, the one I have, I like. That's good enough for me. That's just not the collecting phase I'm in right now. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen from time to time. It doesn't mean I don't have examples where I go through that. But there are people that are very into that, and I'm envious of their abilities to do that. But I don't feel like anxiety that I don't have. If the one they picked is the third best and that's the one I have, I'm like, all right, I'm just, for the most part, I'm glad I have it.
That's a great point. I brought up this at some other time in the past recently, where it's like, there's some of us that are just chasing the perfect record and they'll listen to everything to get there and buy everything this sounds 3% better than this pressing and the UK and this and that. And I made the statement and I stand by it, which is once it's good enough, it's good enough. Like I'm good. I'm ready to move on. Like I can't spend time, resources, money to try to find something that sounds 1% better. Like I'm good with it. Like you said, it's too anxiety provoking.
Plus, I don't really trust a lot of people's opinions on shootouts because it comes down to so many factors besides the record.
Like, right.
Some of the shootouts, some
of the person's ears.
Like your different age, different hearing ability. Some shootouts I've seen, I'm like, you're using that equipment. to judge it. Like how much more information are you getting out of that record than you could
Right.
be with other, like, and that's not, I'm not trying to be snobby. It's just like, come on. Like
Well, that's why I don't even.
you're not even getting that delta. And it's all a matter of opinion. It's all a
Yeah.
matter of opinion. You're going to be hard pressed to find somebody who is going to bash the records that they own because they're never going to be able to get rid of them.
True. Breakfast King of Loyola, problem solved. He grew up on 8-tracks, so it's like, yeah, don't, all this mess with different pressings of vinyl and everything doesn't even come into play for him. Patrick, what's up, Patrick? Jazz reissues sound so good because OGs were cut for the equipment of the day. Rock titles are a whole other matter. Yeah, I kind of touched on that. Yeah, you're right. God, rock titles. See, we didn't even get into that. I've had, I'm going to forget what it was now, but I bought like popular rock album, like metal albums that were US editions that sounded like crap. But then for whatever reason, it was like I don't even remember what people have talked about some of the countries that actually they did really great pressings of some of that stuff. I can't remember what they are right now. I don't think they're Japanese or even UK pressings. So
I
you
would
have
say
to kind of,
Brazil.
maybe it's Brazil. Yeah. Something like that, where like they somehow those pressings are way better. You listen to the US version, it's murky. The vocals are buried. There's distortion. And then you go listen to, maybe it's Brazil, and like, man, this is the way this should have sound. It's kind of crazy. You got to be careful.
I think a lot of that has to do with the business decisions by whatever country it was manufactured in, right? If you think about this, the US was moving away from records where maybe the UK held on to that a little bit longer, and Brazil was holding on to that because they didn't have CDs, or they didn't have an abundance of CD availability in the distribution. So it's like you're going to put care into that medium if it's the dominant, way it's consumed in that culture, right?
Yeah. Chasing Records, what's crazy is some repress are bringing big money now too. Yeah. Well, like Music Matters is a perfect example of the Blue Note stuff that they did, which, if I'd been there 15 years ago when or I don't know, 13, whenever they started doing those, have been like, I would have snagged them all, because now some of the titles that I'm interested in are hundreds of dollars and they sound great. I do have a couple of them and they sound really good, but yeah, that's a series where, man, the price just skyrocketed on those.
And for the most part, Blue Note's not going to do those titles in the classic or the Tone Poet series. I mean, they made an exception or two, but those have been repressed, and they consider that the repress. I think that's driven the value up. I hope that changes, because those Music Matters titles are really good.
Happenings by Bobby Hutcherson was one that got a classic release. That's one of the ones that came out. But yeah, I think for the most part, you're right. It's like those aren't going to be.
I have an SRX of Blue Train, and I have the Tone Poet, and the Tone Poet is right there. There's not really much difference.
Yeah. Classic or the Bomb. We'll need to check out the OTL Shootout. Yeah. Oh yeah, check it out. The thing is, it's hard to, I do talk about the differences in the sound. What's interesting, and again, it's every record is going to be different. You could do a shootout for every freaking record, right? And I've done a couple of them, but Out to Lunch is like my favorite jazz album. So I decided to really try to measure in much detail as I could on 4 very different pressings. The truth about Out to Lunch is that it sounds good. And I've heard this in other forums and stuff, is just, it's almost hard to find a bad pressing of it. Now, someone could come out with an outlier and say, oh no, this pressing sucks. But a lot of those pressings really, they sound great. And as far as I know, the tape is still in good condition and everything. And what I noticed was that you get more high end on the early pressing, and even the Japanese pressing, you start to lose a little bit of that. And then Music Matters is a lot more low end, and you lose some of that top end. In fact, there's so much subtlety. If you listen to that record, man, that's why I love Out to Lunch. But there's a lot of stuff in jazz music where what you'll hear is, what's the word I'm looking for? you hear like the levers on a saxophone being pressed, or even on like the you know, on a trumpet. You'll hear the guy's fingers on the bass, even when he's just, some of the detail you can get out of some of these records that make you feel like you're there. I'm not saying this is important to a lot of people. Breathing. This is stuff you don't pick up in like rock records, right? This is stuff that you can really get. I noticed those kinds of details in older pressings, and it felt like we lost some of that stuff, like in the Music Matters pressing, 45 RPM. The 45 RPM to me is a better mastered overall record because it has more lower frequencies and it balances everything else out across the spectrum, and it sounds phenomenal. But I will say, and I don't know if it's because we just lose some of that high end with, you know, because there's more bass in the mix. I'm not sure, but you don't hear all those little ambient details that you get, which for me, because I'm a nut over that record, I really notice it. So anyway, that's probably more information that people wanted, but I felt like that's some of the trade-off. The overall, and again, you're not going to go watch the video now because I'm now telling you, but it's like sometimes I wish we could just get a Frankenstein of these pressings. Let's take an old press, let's take a new press, and let's try to, because even Jason Rojas was saying this about like, I don't remember if it was the Doors, but some other pressing where it was, oh, maybe it was the Cure, where one pressing has better this, another pressing has better that. Why can't we just get them all together and, you know, have the perfect mix? I don't know. Maybe that's just in my imagination. If you hear it, then you would just have some other problem with it. I don't know.
Well, I think that's the argument on the reissues a lot of times, is that you lose the high because you're not necessarily taking it away, but because you're raising the mids especially and the lows so
Right.
much, you're just going to lose some of that frequency. I also think
It
that
just gets buried. Yeah.
yeah, it just gets buried. There's also I find to be there's a lot less distortion and sibilance the on a lot of the reissues because they're lowering those mids and those lows. It dampens the highs, obviously, just by the nature of the mastering. And I'm not an engineer. I'm sure people are going to tear me apart if they see what I'm saying and
Exactly.
correct
This
me.
is
But
just
but
from,
like
you know,
this is just like I listen to music. This is what I notice. I don't know the science behind it all the time, but um yeah. But this goes. So look, like what you're saying is kind of I'm kind of flip flopping, and I don't mean to not make a decision on this, but like you love Out to Lunch, so you've gone down that rabbit hole on that album. I'm not going to do that for every album I buy.
right.
It
Exactly.
has to be special. So Kind of Blue, yeah,
Life is
multiple
too
versions.
short.
Right. Like, you know, certain jazz records, yeah, I have multiple pressings of certain rock records I do, but that's not the norm for me. I just can't go through that.
Right. Well, and even me saying that, someone else would take these records and put them on their system, and it's going to sound different on their system. Not just that, but my specific record is going to sound different from someone else that has the same pressing. Um, you can't even count on that always, right? Because we're dealing with imperfect media here.
Chasing
S
Records had a good question that WCB commented and he goes, "How do you feel about hi-fi pressings for lo-fi recordings?"
Yeah, that's a good question. Atlantic 75 series
Well,
edition of Stone Temple Pilots core. Is that the answer to
that's the answer to that.
that?
I mean, but again, this goes back to my earlier
By the way,
points,
what's up,
like
Chris? WCB. Thanks for being here.
yeah, definitely. Um, okay, we all listened to Core. 1% of us heard the original vinyl. I'm sorry. Like none of us had a record player. None of us was buying that in 1994 or whatever on vinyl. Very few of us. So we're all conditioned to CD. So that comes out. I'm like, oh wow, this is going to be interesting when they do it. I dropped the needle on that thing. That was one of the few records I was like 3 times in a row. I was like, I need to keep on hearing this because I'm not really understanding what's happening. But yeah, there are certain lo-fi records that that get like this high quality reissue pressing that just punch you in the face, and it does reveal a lot.
Yeah.
I think some of the Nirvana stuff is like that. I consider that kind of a lo-fi. Some of those recordings very lo-fi, and you can get a lot of detail and a lot of kick out of them too.
Speaking of kick, Vinyl and Kick says sound quality matters most to me. I would rather buy excellent sounding reissue over a mid sounding OG, vice versa. Gotta trust your own hearing and your own equipment. Some opinions really suck though, LOL, which I think is just like, yeah, trusting other people doing listening for you and making those choices for you. Although I'll say, you know, I mean, I'm looking at the reviews on Discogs for sure. I mean, it's like, how else are you going to be able to make any kind of an informed decision unless you're, you know, trusting certain people in the community out there to get, you know, if everybody is saying like, oh, there's sibilance all over this and it's like 3 or 4 or 5, if I see that, I'm going to avoid it. Right. So it is really helpful, I think, that people share their experience with certain records.
I use those Discog comments after the fact because I don't find a lot of value when there's 15 comments that say, "Oh, this pressing sounds great. My copy's flat." Like, okay, great. But if I hear an issue, that's when I go to the comments. I'm like, is anybody else hearing this or is it just
Yeah.
me? And that's where I like to verify.
So then you've
Or
already
talk,
dropped your money, man.
yeah, it's already done. It's a done deal.
Oh, forget that.
What about
Well, here,
Boot
I'm just
Trader's
going to go
vinyl
down. Let's just
release?
go
Oh,
down.
you're
I don't want
gonna
to leave anybody
all
out.
right.
I always consider 3 factors: how recording was engineered, how it was mastered, and pressing quality. Yep, you're in the weeds, dude. Same as me. I get it. Boot Trader Vinyl Viz. What's up, Boot Trader? Are the music on vinyl LPs made in the EU supposed to be audiophile copies? I know that being in 180 gram doesn't make it audiophile, but they really seem to do a great job on so many LPs. Not all. We happen to have an expert in the house.
I love music on vinyl. Sometimes.
I have a few.
So first off, audiophile is up for debate what that means. He's right that just because it's pressed on really thick vinyl doesn't make it audiophile. I'm pretty sure music on vinyl comes from high res digital files, which any audiophile would be like, oh, that's not not possible. However, I've definitely had music on vinyl copies that I've moved up to and gotten rid of other reissues because they do a pretty fantastic job on a lot of stuff, especially a lot of the alternative rock stuff they used to do, and a lot of the hip hop actually sounds fantastic that they've done. I think I have a few jazz ones, but nothing's coming to mind. Maybe like a Mono Mingus that they did that I wanted to check out. Maybe like some Pharoah Sanders stuff they recently reissued, later stuff. But music on vinyl I think is great. Like it's only expensive because it's imported. They're pretty affordable otherwise, and they do titles that other people don't do.
And there are differences in pressing some. I don't know about music on vinyl specifically. And if WCB you're still here, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. But with the Blue Note 75 series, people freaking hate them, right? They get beat up every time somebody brings it up. They all suck. They're from digital, this and that. The UK editions, and I have 2. I have Juju and I have Cornbread. Both have hype stickers that say sourced from the tapes or whatever, analog. They sound really good, I feel like. It's hard to convince people of that because all of the literature is telling you that 75th anniversaries just suck of anything that's, you know, any of those Blue Notes that came out. Now, if you look online, you'll see the US versions all say, yes, they're cut from digital sources. And, you know, whether sometimes that's all you need to hear as an audio person, that's, you know, as a vinyl collector, is that's all you had to say, I'm out. But the UK ones, supposedly, at least the ones that I have, had the hype sticker that said they were all cut from analog. So, but the reason I bring that up is because those are UK pressings. The US pressings, and it's just from the information I found so far, and I don't know, I've never seen anything 100% definitive, but the conclusion I've drawn is that US 75ths, digital, UK 75ths, at least the ones I've seen, analog. So it can vary.
Could that be marketing though? Could they say can they be sourcing it from the original tapes but converting it to digital and then cutting it?
I'd have to look at it again.
But do you like the way it sounds?
It sounds great.
Great. Then
but I also have a US I have 2 US so I also have some of the US pressings that mostly sound good, except one sounds terrible. So that's where I'm like,
which one? Tell us.
I don't want to say.
All right, fine. It's not the artist.
Happenings. Fault. It's Happenings. Bobby Hutcherson. That's the one.
Oh,
at least for me. At least for me, did not sound good. All right, let's keep going. I feel like I'm going to repeat myself. Where was I? Second television rhino, high fidelity seems like a not great recording done as an audiophile pressing music analysis. It's funny. I mean, if I'm understanding you right, you'll see these audiophile pressings of records that were never recorded well. Recorded well. It's not even a mixing or a mastering issue. And so it's like here, a perfect example is like the Grateful Dead's is it Steal Your Face? The live album, Chris, where they had all the issues, there's sibilance on everything Jerry's vocals.
One from the vault.
No, here I'll show it. It's this one right here. Sorry, let me just dig it out. Yeah, Steal Your Face. Live album right here. Notoriously has sibilance on Jerry's vocals, especially. That's in the recording. It has to do with the way that they mic'd it and the wall of sound, or I've read up all this information on it and stuff. You know, what you would have to go through to remove it. Maybe one day they can with AI or whatever. I don't know. But it's like, you can't do an audiophile pressing of that, can you? I mean, it's like, it's the sibilance is always going to be there. You can't ever master it away. You know what I mean?
In your research, how dosed was the crew when they were miking the stage?
They were on a scale. They were conscious for most of it, but then
but see, like the people that complain about the sibilance or the problems with the miking on that Dead album, they probably aren't even Dead fans, because they would know that going in, when you get this album, it's not going to sound perfect, but it's more about the performance.
How do you think I know about this, Chris? Because
that's what I'm
I
saying.
could hear it. I could hear it.
Yeah.
I was like, what is up with this? Is it just I have an original US pressing of Steal Your Face, and I put it in Discogs, and people are like, yeah, oh yeah, notoriously this record was not really, and you start to learn about it, but it's all part of the insanity that is collecting vinyl and, you know, loving music. Thanks for the MOV info and review. I've had really good luck with them too, and I do think you're right about them being from a digital source, most likely, says Boo Trader.
Just want to clarify the MOV stuff. Like, I'm very specific with them, like alternative and hip hop. I might have bought some jazz styles, but I don't just buy anything that they put out. I mean, oftentimes, like, after MoFi reissues something, or Columbia or Sony does a reissue, like they also do like a limited copy. I've never gone through like scooping that one up by choice. It's just like, for example, people are probably still looking for the Alice in Chains Unplugged. Like, MOV's probably the best one. Like, you can't get it anymore. That's a fantastic pressing. Like, they did Cracker Kerosene Hat. It's fantastic. They did, like, even the Matthew Sweet stuff they did. I have those and the interventions, and like they're comparable. So like it depends on the genre that they're doing.
They did jazz too, right?
They do jazz all the time. Usually, like, I get their emails on Friday mornings. Usually it's like 1 or 2 jazz titles a month at minimum, and it's mostly Columbia stuff.
I was gonna say they did Kinda Blue, I think.
They did, yeah.
I think that's the one I have. It actually sounds really good.
I think they just did Jack Johnson a few months ago.
Oh yeah.
And they just did some later Pharoah Sanders stuff and Archie Shepp stuff too within the past year and a half. Like later titles though. I don't know much about them.
Music in the House says, I've used OpenAI to ask what is the best pressing of a record and then look at the source it pulls from. It's been pretty good, but not flawless. Yeah, I have mixed results with OpenAI still, although, yeah, it can be a great resource. But to your point, it's like, it seems like, you know, it has brain farts or something, man, because I'll go through, it'll be great for a while, and then suddenly I'm like, what happened? It like OpenAI is broke. I can't get it to give me any reliable info. Let's see. WCB, I don't buy music on vinyl. What they release, there's always another version I have higher confidence in. Plus, they don't always get the rights to the original artwork, which is weird. Oh, okay. Does a lot of that original artwork still exist, Chris, too? I mean, it seems like a lot of it, well, either one of you guys, that stuff, maybe they lost the original images or something like that, or I don't know, maybe it could be a licensing thing. I'm a fan of MOV for stuff that was recorded from digital sources as vinyl and kicks. AIC unplugged MOV pressing sounds phenomenal.
It does.
Very cool. Very cool. Anything else on this, Chris?
No, just buy. Oh, here we go.
Rojas
More on
jumping in.
MOV. I met a
Go
guy
ahead.
from So Rojas says I met a guy from MO Music on Vinyl in Den Bosch. They're not very upfront about their audio sources, but they put music on vinyl as they claim. Fair
It is
enough.
music
Fair
on
enough.
vinyl. Yeah.
Yeah, I was confused when Chris said he doesn't buy music on vinyl. I'm like, all you do is buy music on vinyl, but not the label. Perfect prescription. Order Font Blue and MOV always makes a good cocktail. That's a good one. Here's my takeaway. I think we talked about this in some of our original conversations when you and I linked up. There's levels to this hobby, interest, lifestyle. You're gonna go through phases on what you're seeking out. You're gonna go through phases on habits and what you want to collect. You're not right or wrong. It's just part of the discovery. Like it could totally suck you down a rabbit hole, as it has with all of us, or you could the inverse can happen and you can be totally turned off by it. You just don't care anymore. Like I said, for me, it's like, yeah, do I want the best pressing? Yes. Do I always have access and the means to get the best pressing? No. Am I not going to have that record because of that? Absolutely not. So it's a give or take. There's no one-way street on this. You're gonna go through trials and tribulations on all of these purchasing habits, and you'll decide what's best for you. And everybody's right. Everybody's right. That's what it comes down to for me.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, dude. And like I said on our New Year's stream, I've had to kind of pull back a little bit because that stuff can drive you kind of nutty. It's sort of like how much time and resources are you willing to put into this stuff? Because it's not like it's across the board. Not every Japanese press, sounds has too much high end and no bass. Not every, whatever. You could just name anything and it's gonna be by title basis. Yes, you can draw some general conclusions if you educate yourself on kinds of vinyl and where something was pressed and when it was pressed and all that, all that stuff. But it gets really, really detailed, and you can spend a lot of time on forums and on Discogs and on all these places seeking that perfect record. And to some people and more power to them, God love them. I mean, go out and buy the records and listen to them and flip them when they don't sound right and all of this stuff. It's like, whoo, I don't know, man. To me, that I don't have that kind of time and energy anymore. I tried to do it and I feel like, yeah, like, look, I learned a lot during the few years where I was super nutty about this stuff. But to keep my own sanity now, Chris, I mean, like you, dude, I'm just kind of like, you know what? When it's good enough, it's good enough, dude. I'm gonna move on. I don't care if there's a pressing that sounds 3% better, and I have to just worry about all the different details around that, And it's like, I'm good, dude. I'm good. I'm just gonna worry less about that in 2025.
The turning point for me was recent. Well, it was happening, but it was confirmed recently for me. And this is before I gained knowledge from some of the people in the vinyl community that really know their stuff, mostly talking about Rojas here. The turning point for me was when that Doors box set got announced. I did not for a second even put it in my cart. And I said to myself, I already have it in another form. I have no desire to find out if this is better or worse. And I have no desire to buy these 6 albums ever again in my life. And I
Yep.
probably haven't listened to a Doors album in 2 years. And that was like my confirmation that, like, okay, you don't have to chase the dragon on everything. With that said, I can't tell you how many shootout videos I start to watch or investigate or how many forums I read, because I do have admiration and appreciation for the people you just mentioned that can tell you, we were talking about earlier, can tell you, oh, that label has a different color, so it's the 3rd issue, and it was and then this is what this sounds like. I am envious of those people. and
Well,
it's more for anything. It's more like nerding out and entertainment for me, but it doesn't drive me to have FOMO or angst that I don't have the right pressing in most cases. Sometimes I'm like, oh shit, maybe I should investigate this, but like it's just not. It just doesn't move me like I thought it would.
yeah, in a lot of ways, they're two different things, right? It's like one serves the other, obviously, but it's like one is, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's, the whole investigatory process that goes into this stuff. It's the analysis, but there's a such thing as paralysis by analysis, right? And I feel like sometimes I have that where I'm spending so much time trying to figure out how to buy the best pressing of something or everything. And it just becomes a machine. What I realize is like, wait, this is all time I could be spending just listening to records. Like, what am I doing here? So for me, I had to find that balance. But yeah, I sort of think of them as two different things. Like, yeah, it's fun to investigate this, and God love the people that are doing the work. You know what I mean? Because they've helped me out immensely many times. But whoo, man, it does eat a lot of time.
There's a couple of comparables to this. Like I don't know if you have any musician friends. I have friends that are musicians, and all I want to do is talk to them about music. And they're like, I don't listen to music. I play it. Like
Right.
I don't know what you're talking about. I
Yep.
don't know. And it's kind of the same thing. Like just because you're in this doesn't mean that's what you have to focus on. That's what I really want to get at. And there's value to everything that everybody's habits bring, because it just builds more knowledge. And to your point, it's extremely time consuming to go down that rabbit hole. I mean, how many times have
Right.
we talked about it where it's like we're discussing a topic and I'm like, man, that's just an hour I could have spent listening to records instead of just
Every
talking
time we have a
about it.
conversation, you say the same thing. You know what? I'm sorry, dude. I could be listening to records rather than talking to you, man.
That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. But it's like you. But at the same time, it's like people are into sports. People care more about the statistics and the analysis than
Yeah, because
playing.
it's fun. It's fun.
Because it's fun.
It's
It is
another
fun.
thing, but it's also fun. Like it can be cool to like get into that stuff. But yeah, yeah, exactly. I got you. I think Wyoming Dave brings up a good point. Says I don't mind buying repressings of music from '91 and up. I have some Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Green Day. I have 3 Linkin Park. Ooh, that's cool. I got 1 Linkin Park sitting over there. The other thing too about reissuing a lot of this later stuff, and it's funny and this is just my opinion, is that if you go back and research like when did digital start to come into the chain, and they started experimenting with this stuff in small doses in the 70s. I mean, as we got into the 80s, more and more stuff was becoming digital, and then of course into the 90s. So when we start asking the question like a 90s record, an OG, and then we get a reissue of it, and you see the question like, well, yeah, but is this AAA? It's like, was this record ever AAA? Like, you got to define what you mean. It's like, I just think that's a totally different experience. When you start talking about reissues of 90s records, it's like, and people, oh, it just sounds like the CD or this or that's like, you got to be more specific, like, because that's a this was mixed and mastered for a CD, more than likely. That's what, they weren't going to waste their time on remastering it for vinyl, and even if they did, it's probably coming from all digital. And so yeah, it's just like there was never a physical tape of this thing. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, but that's just, my understanding of it. So it can get murky, even when you're talking about like stuff in the late 70s and the 80s, where it's like, and again, this goes into more rabbit holes of like, were the B-52s ever analog? Was Depeche Mode ever analog? Do you really care if you have a digital version of Depeche Mode? It's like they're using all electric instruments. It's like, or whatever, or digital instruments and stuff. Anyway.
Well, you could also look on the old CDs. It'll tell you, it'll have like, somebody in the chat might know this better, but it'll have like AAD. So it's recorded analog, mastered analog. I forget how it goes. Recorded analog. Anyway, it'll introduce like the digital step, or there's identifiers. You could do
like the
research
ultimately the file was saved digitally. What you'll hear like Rick Rubin say is like the end result is a digital file. And so it's like that's what we're pressing from, that's what we're mastering from, or whatever. That's what we're pressing from.
Except the Chili Peppers.
Except the Chili Peppers.
During Stadium Arcadium, they ran out. There was like a tape shortage around the world, and they all panicked. Anyway, that's another story. But yeah, and sometimes the CD sounds better than vinyl, like the Weezer Blue album. CD,
and there could be a lot of different reasons why, right? I mean, this thing, there's so many variables, man.
Well, I think there's two main takeaways. Number one is I think that the record labels and some of the, Neil Young does this, and obviously Mobile Fidelity had to start doing it, and I guess Analog Productions might do this, but they should just put a sparse code on everything and just tell us where you got it from. Just make it transparent. Don't put it on the hype sticker. Don't leave it to speculation. It's not going to hurt your sales. We're still going to buy the stuff. And the second thing I always leave these conversations with is I'm going to sell all my records. I'm just discouraged by everything, all the ups and downs.
Yeah, it's funny. Like with what'd you say, MoFi is like, who knows, I guess, but it's like you'd have to be a fly on the wall to know why they were vague about it. But sometimes I figured they're probably just vague because they thought, they probably assumed people were just going to freak out over it, which they did when the truth finally came out. Otherwise, why hide it or why be vague about it? Because there are a lot of audiophiles or people that are buying a lot of the more expensive pressing. You're saying this is the best pressing of this, like with Santana Abraxas, right? It's like universally, everyone says it's the greatest. MoFi is the best, and then to have it come out that stuff is digital, broke some people's hearts, but
they lied. That was a big deal, right? They lied. But I also think that there's value in doing what they do, because you can't run those tapes all the time. You just can't keep on running the tapes. They're going to deteriorate. So maybe
well, and to Rick
that
Rubin's point is they begin to deteriorate immediately. I mean, if an audio tape is anything like a piece of film, that they deteriorate quickly. With film, certain colors will, I don't know what the terms are anymore. Is it oxidized? I don't know. Whatever it is, it will lose those colors, and that's it. So they needed to start digitizing that stuff to save it. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about the whole analog digital thing, but at some point it's like all those tapes are going to be dust. So it's like, well, what are you going to do?
Yeah, it's a necessary evil.
They only used it because we hadn't invented digital yet. If digital was a thing in the 50s, you don't think they would have been using digital?
I think that's what makes this makes the Blue Note reissue so special too, is that those tapes are virtually no one wanted it. No one wanted it for so long, and those tapes went untouched. Right? Those tapes are all pretty much in really good shape, and that's why you're also getting high quality out of those reissues, I think.
Yeah. Yep. We could talk about
Are
this
you gonna
forever, dude.
are you gonna buy any of the Michael Jackson one steps? Aren't you curious?
No. I'm not even curious.
No. Why?
Because I have a first pressing of Thriller. I only really care about, I shouldn't say that. But my favorite ones are going to be Off the Wall, Thriller, and Bad. And, I have nice pressings of all those. I'm good. I'm not curious because I know how slippery that slope is, dude. It's going to, and I'll be honest, like, I don't have the kind of budget that a lot of people in this community have. I know a lot of people out here, they can go out and buy every freaking high-end pressing when it comes out and spend thousands of dollars on this stuff. I just don't have that budget. So I got to be thrifty. That's the whole reason why I started my channel, was because like I was trying to show people how do you get nice sounding vinyl without breaking the bank. That was the whole thing. And I still feel that way, so it's a slippery slope, I'm just not going to go down. Well, what happened when the last MJ came out? They did Thriller and it was, it was panned. It was just too much of, that's the thing. It's like, just because something gets more fidelity doesn't mean it sounds better. If that makes sense. You know what I mean? Have you guys gone down the Bossa Nova rabbit trail yet? Oh my God. I have not chasing records. How about you, Chris?
No.
Have you chasing records? What's that rabbit hole like? Music in the house, CDs, recordings, mixing, editing, then mastering is the third letter in the ADD. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you,
EDD,
music in the house.
etc. Yeah, yeah. Food trader, even digital will deteriorate and lose data over time, but the one good thing about it is you can make copies that lose no generation like tape. I prefer analog though. I know. Well, here's the thing about analog too is that, well, it's like me. Chris and I differ in this sense. I almost exclusively listen. If I'm intentionally listening to music, it's on a record. I'll still listen to my phone. You know, I listen to Spotify because I'm listening to it on this through AirPods. I don't listen to high-end digital because I don't connect it to my stereo. I don't want to hear it that way. I don't buy CDs because I have records. I just want to hear it on a record. That's how I grew up. I just still have the same attachment to it as I always have. What was I going to say about your comment though? Oh, deteriorating, losing data over time. You still like analog though. Yeah. So that's my point was, yeah, I still like analog too. And it actually, I'm going to go, I was going to say it earlier, but I'll say it now because it goes good with that as a good response to what you're saying is that we are racing very quickly to an all digital world. And we have been for decades. We now have AI, we have virtual reality. Pretty soon, we won't even be able to tell the difference between something that's real and something that's not. In my opinion, that's a sad state of affairs for the human race. Yes, there are good things that can come out of that. Hopefully, medicine is something that can really benefit from that. You know, and there's going to be other things. But man, dude, it's going to get weird very quickly. And I think a lot of us want that tactile. We want to still be able to touch something real, even if it has a tick or a pop in it. Even if it's scratchy, even if it's delicate, it represents something physical in the world. And this doesn't, you know, and for a lot of people it will. I'm talking like an old person right now, you know, but it's like, you know, the world's gonna be like all digital in the not too distant future. And I think there's a lot of us that are really want real books in our life as opposed to PDFs. We want real record music in our life, even if it takes up as many shelves as Chris has back there, because it's, and maybe you don't, this isn't why you do it, Chris, but for me, it's like, man, I just want access to something physical. Video games, you're not going to have cartridges or CDs or any of that stuff soon. It's going to be all downloaded, everything. When we watch movies, how do we watch them? We stream them. So, you know, there's just something about holding this that has tape in it with little pictures on it that represents the film, man. It's just, if I'm making sense, it's a difference. But the reason I like physical media is for that purpose. One day it will be gone. No one will miss it, I guess. But it's like, I don't know. I still feel like because I was born before that time, I need like that physical reality in my life, man.
I think I kind of toe the line based upon my age where I came up in both worlds simultaneously. And when I look at this, well, I'm a collector by nature. I'm always going to collect something, I think. But also I find it to be, and this is kind of an egotistical or arrogant comment to make, or it could be interpreted that way, but I feel like my collection,
we're used to it, dude. Go ahead.
Yeah. I feel like my collection is kind of like an extension of my identity in a way. So, like if someone came to my house who I didn't really know and they saw my records, like I hope that they go look to see what I listened to like understand me a little bit better. Right.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not going to give them my phone and be like, go look at my title, like recently played. You know, that's one thing. And the second thing too is it's interesting to leave something physical behind. So my hope one day is that while we're all not going to be here one day, but I hope one day my daughter wants these. And that's like her, besides like our obviously relational connection and dad to daughter. I hope that one day, like, she gets to hold on to these and be like, "Oh, I miss my dad," and she can go pull something off the shelf that was mine and be like, "Oh, yeah, I remember he listened to this," or, "Oh, I didn't know my dad was into this," stuff like that. So, there's that preservation of it as well. Um, when I this is just the world that consumes me, but when I meet people, I always try to find out, like, what do they listen to? Sometimes they think I'm crazy, and sometimes, like, you really hit it off with people. Or, when I find out somebody has, like, a record collection or a CD collection, I'm like, "Oh, let me see it." They're like, "Oh, no, it's nothing like yours." I'm like, "I don't care. Like, I don't care what it is. Like, let me just see it. It's gonna tell me something about you."
Right.
Um, and you just don't get that on streaming.
Yeah,
Also,
that's
I
true.
find, like, I stream a lot, not, like, as much as I listen to records, but my streaming listening habits are totally different than my record listening habits. It's very rare I go through a whole album when I stream. It's more of like I DJ for myself when I stream. I'm firing around. I mean, on my Instagram, I'm building a playlist in real time for people to look at, right? Like, every day I put up a new track that I add. That's
That's great, by the way.
like
Go follow
Thank
the
you.
Groove Seeker over on Instagram. Those that's a
Yeah,
great little playlist that you come up with every day.
and yeah, it's just like, but your street, like, yeah, you could do that with a record, but it's a little bit more involved and consuming, or unless you have 45s. But digitally, you just get that rapid satisfaction of, like, I want to hear this right now. And 99% of the time, it's available for me to go put on and hear it. You don't necessarily absorb the music the same way. And
It's
the
great in
streaming,
certain contexts. Like if I'm running, if I'm in my car, like yeah, of course I'll go
yes.
to that, and
Yeah, you
it's
can't bring
very
your turntable with
convenient,
you. Right.
right? So it's portable. It's great that we have access to all that stuff.
It's
But
also great for sampling before you buy.
right,
That's an advantage.
100%.
But at the same time, and I've gotten away from this when I was younger. I would go into a music store and I would get curious based upon an album title or who's on the record or what label it's on or who produced it. Now it's like, if I get that curiosity, it's like almost embarrassing. I'm like in a record store with my phone to my ear. It's like you lose something. And then the other fault of this too, and I'm sure you've experienced this, you also make that judgment, and it's hard to revisit it. Like, we're back in the day, if you bought something physical, maybe it didn't hit you, but you also went back to it because you had it, and then you rediscovered it. How many times have you bought an album or a CD or a tape in your life that you were like, "Ah, this isn't that great," and then 5 years later, you put it back on, like, "Oh, this is phenomenal." You change, and it's still there
Right.
for you,
Yeah.
you know?
True. True. Music in the House says Bernie Grumman cut the MJ releases. They should be pretty good without the audiophile treatment, right? It seems also closer to when the tape was fresh. Um, which ones are those? Did you say they're going to be reissuing those soon, Chris? I didn't know that.
No, I think what he's
He's
saying
talking
is
about
that
something else, right?
I think Bernie cut the originals, right?
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, I didn't know that either.
And then he's saying that those should be closer to what the tape is. I don't know. Thriller came out, I think Off the Wall just got issued. One step. I was just curious, like, like, if
See,
you
I
would
don't even.
ever.
I'm not even like. I'm so outside the loop, man. I don't belong to any of those email group. I mean, it's like, yeah, that's just me.
That's good.
Um, that Boot Trader is right there with you. Me too. Sorry, Boot Trader. I'm not sure what you're referring to, but we will take it. Thank you. The pressing quality of 75th left a lot to be desired. United Pressings were the problem, and were they not? Bernie's digital cuts, vinyl and kicks. I collect records, but love listening to music, whether it's digital or analog. It doesn't take away from my listening pleasure. Yeah, I agree. And like I said, when I listen in the car or if I'm out running around, or even if I'm not, I mean, I have one turntable in my house. I have to be in this room to hear it. And so, but when I'm in this room, it's only records. But when I'm, throughout the rest of my life, yeah, I'm listening to digital and stuff, and it's totally fine. It's totally fine. Um, let's see. After multiple ultrasonic cleaning, 75th are much better. Yeah. I don't know if are we still talking about the Blue Notes, the 75th on that? If we are, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it was a lot of surface noise and stuff like that on those. Yeah, and it's nice that they cleaned up for some people, for sure. All right. What else, Chris? I know it's really late for you, dude. Chris is on the East Coast. New Yorker.
Well, the good thing and bad thing is I could talk about this stuff forever. So, but eventually we have to call it quits.
Yeah. Any other questions? Let's have a Q&A. Who has questions?
How about a poll? Can you do a poll?
We can do polls.
Let's real time feedback. Did people find this helpful or maybe interesting?
Yeah, or you could just leave a comment. But yeah, I can do we can do a poll. Let's see.
Chasing Records Rojas put this worm in my brain. Yeah, he has a tendency to do that. If you watch his Sunday morning streams where he DJs live, it's always a trip. And I always feel like a badge of honor when I recognize some deep cut he's playing. I'm like, oh, I know this.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what he was referring to on that one.
I think Jason had the Brazilian wall for a while before the Dylan took over.
Yeah, the Dylan is dominating now. Yeah, so just kind of summarize, we did, if you want to go back and start at the beginning, if you came in late, we talked about just some different things in the community, vinyl collecting resources. We talked about Popsike, which is a website that aggregates all past sales from 2003 till present from eBay on anything vinyl. CVinyl.com is a great resource for label variations and just seeing like, okay, what did the Columbia label, what the 6i versus the 2i, and what were the years that those were in use, which can be really great, I think, when you're out in the wild and you see a 2i and you're like, did this get a 6i press, or when did this come out? And you can kind of get an idea on what era different labels are. For Blue Note, it covers like millions of labels. Great stuff. Record grading 101. We got into that last week, but we just want to touch on it today. Goldmine standards, everyone should be familiar with. What was this one? Oh, record shows. So I did cite a website called vinyltimes.com. I will show you all of the 2025 vinyl records. I say all. I'm not sure if it's a comprehensive list, but it has emails and Facebook pages and websites and Instagrams for the different shows that are going on this year. So that might be cool if you're traveling, or if you want to know if one's coming in your area. Check out vinyltimes.com. And the last one, I don't know, I'm not a collector of 45s, but if you are, go check out 45cat.com. That might be helpful for you. I don't know if it's got things that aren't on Discogs. It looks pretty interesting. Maybe worth checking that out. I did throw up a poll if you guys are interested. Pete, please tell us this was interesting. It's just a rhetorical question. 100% said yes. One vote. No, I'm kidding.
That was me.
Oh, that was you. Okay, good. At least you thought it was interesting.
Are you familiar with freestyle fellowships? I am not.
Inner City or Anti 93 album? No, I'm not. Is that what is that? Let's look it up.
I would assume it's hip hop.
I was to say it must be hip hop. Sounds hip hop.
So this is a perfect instance where I will try to find this and stream it now.
Right. Let me ask you this. Will you stream the whole thing, or just enough to decide if you like it or not? And if you like it, you're going to cut off the stream and you're going to just buy the wax so you can hear it in its entirety on vinyl first. That's what I do. I know a lot of people do that. Inner City Griots, Freestyle Fellowship, Parental Advisory, 1993, Hip Hop. The second studio album by American hip hop group Freestyle Fellowship was released on April 28th. Cool. I'm definitely going to check that out.
LA Underground, that seems appealing.
In 2012, Daily Californian included it on the 10 albums for the hip hop layman list. Okay.
Nice. If you love hip hop with a jazz, nice. So yeah, Vinyl and Kicks is saying if you love hip hop with a jazz street edge and a 90s hip hop classic, in my opinion. Is it for Vinyl and Kicks, is it like in the vein of Diggable Planets and like Souls of Mischief, or is it completely off base from that?
Cesar wants to see the Strokes collection, man.
I don't really have much. I have all of their albums, nothing special. And then for the first record, I have I think a music on vinyl, pressing with the original cover, and then just a regular issue of their first album. I have nothing deemed collectible, but I have everything Strokes. I might even have the 7-inch box set that they came out with too. I gotta look.
All Music gives Inner City Grites 5 stars. I don't always trust. I gotta be honest. All Music. User rating 4.5 stars. All Music rating 5 stars. That sounds interesting, man. I'm definitely gonna check this out. I'm sure Chris will too. Sorry to interrupt.
One of these reviews says Freestyle Fellowship and Inner City Grites is not easy listening, mind you. In terms of jazz music, they've got a lot more in common with Self Jupiter's namesake or Ornette Coleman than Kenny G. Well, that's good to know. I don't really like my hip hop to be infused with Kenny G riffs. I want to listen to a hip hop record, not get a root canal.
Ooh, be careful what you say about that. One of our good friends loves Kenny G.
That's okay. They're entitled to their opinion.
It's a long album too.
Yeah, I'll have to check this out.
I have a question for Chris. How strong are the studs in your walls to hold those record shelves off the floor like that? We've talked about this, Chris. Go ahead.
I'm not a handy person, so I'll try to explain this. So the way my room is situated, I don't know if you can really see, but there's the foundation, and then there's a ledge, and then the wall. So those I got from a company called Gotham Cabinet. They're out of, I think, Long Island, New York, and I found them through their website and through Wayfair. So those are up on that shelf. They're very heavy, and then you can't really see, but above, I'll try to point, you can see there's kind of a gap between the ceiling and the top of the shelf. There is a 2x2 across the top where they're screwed in to that, which is screwed into the wall. And then these shelving units are 3x3. So where they meet, they're actually screwed in together as well. So knock on wood, it's pretty sturdy. I love those shelves. I love that they're not on the floor for the most part, but the only downside to those is anything that's a little abnormally sized, like a box set, you either have to kind of rotate to put in the shelf or remove from the box set to put in the shelf. So then I have a bunch of IKEA.
Is that just because they're so like tight vertically?
Yeah, they're probably like, I could probably get the dimensions. They're probably like 13 inches tall or maybe 14.
Do you want to go grab your Strokes collection? Cesar is like, has to see these.
Yeah, give me 1 second. Yeah, give me 1 minute.
Cesar. I got your back, Cesar, man. We'll get him to pull up the Strokes. Chris and Jason, if you ever get a chance to hear that Freestyle Fellowship album, I would enjoy to hear what you think. Absolutely. It's on my list, dude. I'm sure next time you see us next Monday, we will have a detailed critique for you, because I'm all about hip hop right now, dude. I've been really trying to grow my collection, and I never really had a lot of hip hop on vinyl, just because I heard a lot of that stuff either on CD or on the radio growing up or whatever. And so very recently, I've been trying to build a nice little collection of 80s and 90s and stuff. So yeah, I'm definitely going to check it out. we can talk about it next week. Maybe we'll do something hip hop related next week, just because it's Chris's favorite genre. I love hip hop, so yeah, maybe we'll get into that next week.
Well, it was my first love, but I'm way out of the loop now. All right, for Cesar.
Yeah, we're not talking about modern. Does modern hip hop even exist popularly? I don't think so. We got rap.
Just Kendrick, you know.
Yeah.
All right, so for Cesar, the new abnormal.
Here, let me blow you up. Oh, my camera's going out anyway, so.
The new abnormal. Room on Fire. I have 3 copies of this. I have this. This is the music on vinyl, actually. This is just the original cover. One different song. I think New York City Cops is on this. Then I have 2 pressings of this. Nothing OG. I think this is the Vinyl Me Please. This is just a reissue that they did. What's this one? Oh, yeah, Of Earth. It's probably their worst. Yeah, probably their worst. Actually, no, this one might be Come Down Machine. Although I like all of these records. I'm just talking with the people.
Which are the? I mean, so give us kind of a, go top to bottom. Your favorite going down. Give us an idea.
Well, the first one's going to take the cake just because it means so much to me. I think I mentioned this on the 10 records I'm thankful for. This is just like junior or senior year of high school. This was just like everything, and it was happened in the UK first, but it really took off in New York. So probably that's my favorite. I would say the new abnormal. I just really like the direction they went on this. I think it's awesome. I did get the VMP one, so actually I sold other copies once I got the VMP ones. After that, it's probably Room on Fire. This is their second. It's awesome album. And then I would go Angles. A lot of people didn't like this. I really dug it. And then from here, this is kind of a toss-up. I'm just going to cop out and put these both as my least favorite. Although, when I say that, I still like them and listen to them. So, yeah, Strokes are awesome. Strokes are kind of, it's like kind of I think like the last real movement in New York City. There's a great book and documentary called Meet Me in the Bathroom. Actually, Jason, you should watch the documentary. I think you can get it on Prime. And it's just about the Strokes, the Moldy Peaches, LCD Sound System, and somebody else. Talks about Ryan Adams a little bit, but kind of as like a villain. But yeah, they're just, for me, it's like one of the few bands that I got to kind of be a kid with and like continue my journey with. There's not a lot of bands like that for me because I listen to so much old music. That was before my time, or I was, I could say I like Nirvana and I was alive, but I wasn't really in it. So I just love that band. Pretty much will buy into anything they put out and give it a really hard listen. And I'm never really discouraged, even though some of the albums aren't great by other people's standards.
Yeah, if you're a Strokes guy, yeah, your standards will be different than someone just breaking in on some of those other albums.
Oh yeah. That was the other one. Yeah, it's a really cool documentary. Actually, Jason is like from because I know you appreciate artists and art. Says, all right, the 7 inches in the other room. I have to go get it. And it's I can't go in there now. From an artist perspective and someone who appreciates art, Jason, just seeing like kind of the communal movement that was happening around that time. You should definitely watch it. And the girl from the Moldy Peaches, actually both of the Moldy Peaches used to work at a record store that I used to go to as a kid called Exile on Main Street in New York. But it's that store is long closed, but he sells at some of the record stores or record fairs that are around. He actually sells at WFMU, but they used to work there, and it was like a crapshoot because like they were just out of their minds, the Moldy Peaches. So like the store should be open and it's not open, and then like you realize like the girl from the Moldy Peaches is working that day, so she's just not there. And they, so it was always like a crapshoot, but it was a really cool scene in there. They
what's it called again?
It was called Exile on Main Street. It's not around anymore.
I mean, what the
But
Strokes documentary is called what?
oh, it's called it's the Strokes are featured, but it's about a bunch of bands. It's called Meet Me in the Bathroom. There's a book too.
Okay.
Um but anyway, yeah, it was a really cool record store, and the former owner still sells independently. He's a really great guy, and they had to close probably right before the revival. Like they stuck it out, and then it kind of disintegrated, and retail became very difficult, especially the area they were in. And then like they closed, it like broke a lot of people's hearts. Like when they closed, like the Moldy Peaches showed up and played um the benefit concert, and then actually Woody Guthrie's, I guess it's a state now, but like their offices are right above that record store. So it's like a very like low key happening scene when that record store was open. Like if you knew, you knew. There's a lot of knowledge in that place. Like we talked about on the Surface Noise B side, like what do record stores need to survive besides like the business aspects of it? Like you need that point of reference, like where we all come to YouTube for all these discussions. Like these discussions used to happen at nauseum in music stores all the time, and like
Right.
that was the fun of going. And like when you're a 14 or 15-year-old kid, like you don't have money to buy something every time you're in there, but like you still get value of from going there and like hanging out and hearing stuff and whatnot.
I used to bug the crap out of the record store owners and bookstore owners and every card trading car, everything I've been into over my lifetime, and as a young kid and stuff like that. Yeah, I just go in there and talk people's ear off, just because. Where else were you going to talk about this stuff? It was fun to just kind of like share ideas and then get information.
Yeah, when we linked up like several months ago, that was like my whole thing is like I don't have that opportunity anymore. And like the people and the personalities that I've met through this, I used to just either be one of those people working at the store or meet those people going into stores. And
Yeah,
you lose a lot of that. And I think it's really important. Um, so it's an anchor, like that communal aspect will let you or persuade you to go spend that three extra dollars on a Blue Note Classic from the store because you feel obligated to kind of preserve that store's legacy. You won't just go to Amazon to get it, no matter how easy it is or how less expensive it is. Like you just spend the couple extra dollars because you appreciate what they've created for you. And we've kind of lost that because it's hard to keep a record store open. It's hard to keep any store open, but
yeah,
especially record stores compete with Amazon. They don't compete with Amazon on used. And Amazon doesn't get quote unquote indie exclusives, but that's not enough to kind of keep it going. That's why record stores really need to step their game up and go find collections and get there before some of the bigger buyers do, so that people have a reason to come in and look around.
yeah. We talked about some of that on Service Noise last week. Yeah, and it's like I'm guilty of it. Like I don't get into record stores as much as I used to. Um, for a variety of reasons. But yeah, now you're making me feel bad. just
Well,
just you're right. It just that's an idea that just needs support, because next thing you know, and going back to all my comments about it becoming a digital world and wanting to be in touch with the analog, that's part of it. A brick and mortar is an analog thing, and Amazon not so much. So, at least in terms of our relationship to it. So yeah.
yeah, there's nobody like on Amazon when you put your search in that pops up and is like, "Oh my god, do you know who produced this record?" And like all of a sudden you're 45 minutes down a rabbit hole and you have three other things in your hand. So that doesn't
Don't
happen.
give them any ideas. They're gonna have an AI do it.
It'll be terrible. It'll be terrible, but yeah.
So that's our recommending Mop Top 2. I wish they would
I
have
know. It
continued,
keeps
but
on.
they only did 2 albums and then broke up.
This is the third. I feel really bad. I owe Cesar this. Cesar, I'll tell you what, I will make this commitment. By next Monday, I will listen to both Mop Top albums and I will give you my
Well,
wholehearted
Freestyle
opinion.
Fellowship too, Inner City Grites. I've already committed for you on that one, so
Yes.
we both got to listen to that one too.
It's I I don't consider myself a critic that anybody cares about what I have to say. I don't consider myself like an authority, but when you start to socialize with people that you're really into music, I just get bombarded with suggestions, and I'm guilty of doing that to Jason all the time, sending him stuff like, "Hey, listen to this. Hey, listen to this. Hey, listen to this." And
Well, when
so
it's
it's just
90% fish, dude, it's kind of like,
it's true. Well, I think that's tapered off a bit. Maybe it's like 75% now,
Okay, that's probably right.
um but yeah, I just have like a playlist and like a iPhone note of like what people send me. Like I have to listen to this, I have to listen to that. So
Yeah, I think
it's not
violent
a
kicks.
community for
It
record
goes back
stores.
to that, just yeah, it's and not just prices, but just value somewhere. And it's like if I go in, and we talked about this at the beginning of the show with like whatnot and stuff. Like if you're just going in there to a faceless person who's looking through you, just wants to take your money, and there's just no social aspect having, which is what I try to bring to our shows on whatnot. It's like, yeah, it feels like, why am I here? Why am I giving you my money? So I think, yeah, we all have to step up when it comes to that, especially as brick and mortars become a dying breed. It's like, yeah, you got to give something. And a lot of times it's enough to give yourself, give your time, give your opinion, look someone in the eye and have a freaking conversation, ask questions. It goes so far. That's what we're looking for. Is just that personal connection. It's like, but when you walk into a record store and you look at the pricing and it's $3 or $5 more than what you can buy on Amazon, and you're literally, uh, you're, what are you getting that's supplementing that $5? It's kind of like, I don't know. It can be, and that's kind of the way I feel about it. If I'm being honest, it's like, yeah, it's impossible for me to remove that aspect from it. If I go to a restaurant and I get poor service, I'm not going back, and stuff. So same thing goes for all this stuff. And I think it's pretty well. I've been a book collector my whole life, music. In certain times of my life, it's been, sports cards and different stuff. How many times do you go to those kinds of places and a pompous person is behind the counter who can't be bothered and who has an attitude, and it's like you just feel judged every minute you're in their store. I don't get that as much as I used to, but it seems like in the 80s and 90s, man, it was like, good God. It's like they didn't even want you there. But yeah, that's how record stores are going to win back some of that stuff, I think, is by like, just treat people. You got people physically in your store, man. You should have some passion around that.
There's a local, it's not really local, but it's probably the closest one to me. I brought them up a lot, Dark Side Records. I think we'll try to get them on this stream. They're great guys, but they add a lot of value to what they do. They go all out for Record Store Day. They have, they partner with local businesses, with vendors outside, coffee, food. They have bands playing in their store all the time. At least once a month, they have a listening party on Thursday nights for a big album that's coming out. When they do their used for the week, they do a live stream on Instagram showing everything they're going to be putting out, or most of everything they're going to be putting out. And then like Tuesday is used day, because Tuesdays, that's when albums used to come out.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of
Oh,
people
that's
think albums
cool.
came
That's
out on
cool.
Fridays. They used to come out on Tuesdays. So like they have their new albums come out, or reissues come out on Fridays, but their used drop is Tuesday, 10 o'clock. The email goes out. If you watch the live stream the night before, you can call dibs on something and call the store and order it. It's like little things like that they do makes you pay attention to the store. Otherwise, they're just another record store.
Right.
And if you're around, you're going to go there, but they drive traffic through community, basically. Like I've seen those guys out at shows, like local shows, like they're always friendly and we talk. If I need something, I can call them and have like a one-on-one conversation. Like, hey, I'm looking for this. Like, what are your thoughts on this? How do I find it? Like, that's all the stuff that record stores need to do. Like anybody that thinks they're just going to rent a small space and start getting stocks of albums in, and like, because there's a vinyl craze or a vinyl resurgence, it's like totally wrong. Like you're going to fold within 6 months.
All right.
So you have to do something unique. Other stores that I like, they are notorious for having an amazing used section. Like they turn over stuff so much. Like every week you have to be in there if you want primo stuff. And like that's their anchor.
That's a great point.
Like so it's not just, you're just not going to compete with Amazon on their proposition. You're not going to compete with some of the big box retailers now that are online. Like Acoustic Sounds has a corner on the market to a certain extent. Mike from the In Group has a corner on the market to a certain extent. Like people buy from them because they put themselves out there before everybody else wanted to do it. They were making that effort, right? And
Right.
that's, I mean, Acoustic Sounds a little bit different. They have their own record label and access to certain stuff, but you know, it's just, you're not going to compete with that. Like that's kind of done. You're not going to beat their prices. I don't know what you're going to do unique with online selling from a new perspective that's going to outmuscle them, but it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound like I'm beating up record stores and stuff like that because I know it's hard running a business. I get it, man. It's just, you know, for the very reasons you just stated, it's like there's so much competition. And as a consumer, you're always going to weigh price versus, you know, service or whatever, you know, whatever else there is that you're being offered for your dollar. So yeah, it's just tough. You're not doing yourself any favors unless you're unless you're really giving some service. Also, 2 record stores closed South Miami area in the last month. Yeah, I was talking about last week how Portland, at least however updated the internet is, or wherever Google, wherever I got this information, that the Portland area has the most record stores per capita, dude. And if you ever come out here, I haven't even been to every record store in my area, and I've probably been to more than 20 of them. It's crazy how many record stores are. I don't know how they're thriving and how new ones keep popping up. It's incredible. We have a huge hipster community out here, so maybe that's part of it. All right, so let's see. Amazon sells used, but 9/10 it's way overpriced. A few record stores do the records plus beer or coffee bars to keep a steadier income. What do y'all think about that? That's an interesting thing. And I'm glad we're having this discussion actually, because I'll be honest with you. If I'm looking up record stores and I'm on my phone and we're in an area and I'm like, all right, let's find a good record store, and I only have time to go to maybe 1 or 2. If I see that there's a cafe or a bookstore, I keep swiping because I kind of am already assuming that that's not going to be my kind of store, where I want to see a store that's got a lot of used, like Chris said, maybe a lot of turnover and stuff like that. And when I start seeing that it's a cafe / record store, and there are some of those where, yeah, you could imagine beer and coffee's huge in Portland. You know, it's always a little, it's not for me. You know what I mean? It's going to be maybe for someone else that's, you know, I don't know. I'm just a little, where I am now with collecting, I'm not, more than likely not going to find what I want by walking into a cafe. Having said that, and because we're having this discussion, it's a cool idea from the standpoint of like, I know it will serve a lot of other kinds of collectors and even myself. Like, if you're going to go have coffee and beer anyway, why not have it with records? You're also making me think of something else. We belong to a winery that's out here. We get like their monthly thing or whatever. And so they had a vinyl night where you could bring a record in and people would bring them in and they would listen to records and stuff while they're drinking wine and stuff. That's cool, you know, and it's cool that, you know, people are kind of keeping vinyl alive and, you know, and kind of targeting people that are into vinyl. So ultimately, it's a great freaking idea. I don't know that it's always for me, but now that we're having a discussion, yeah, I probably would have some beer and vinyl. Why not?
Yeah, there's been a couple of like vinyl bars in my surrounding area. People are like, "Oh, I'm sending this to you because you like records," and I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, not to be rude, I would never go to this,
Yeah.
ever. Like maybe if a group of people were going, but I would never. That wouldn't be my first choice. And I don't like. I like record stores where if you walk in, they might have beers for you that you could take, or you could bring a beer in. But like, I don't need like a barista next to my, my 1981 DC area hardcore music snob, like checking me out. I don't need those two mixed. You know what I mean?
Oh man. How many pumps of blah 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 do you want in that? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's yeah, we're being really snobby now.
Yeah.
Ganja Lounge, the only option that will pay off. We need a rim shot for that one.
And to your comment earlier about snobby record store employees, I would much rather go to a store with snobby record store employees.
I know what I was going to say is that I recently bought a couple of records in Seattle while I was there, and I only had time again. I usually try to hit something I haven't hit before that seems like it's going to be juicy for me. I'm not going to remember the name, but maybe someone knows. It's a big record store, and it's one of the more well-known Seattle record stores. And there's a restaurant in there. They share. I don't know if they bought the restaurant later. I don't know the history of it, but it's literally this whole area where you're walking in and you see all these records on the left, and on the right, people are eating. it's kind of crazy, but it's cool. They did it right because they got some great vinyl in there, and they got a lot of it. And so, and it's sort of segmented away. Yes, they're connected, but that was kind of cool. Yeah, that was kind of cool. I did go there. I did buy records there. I didn't eat there. We ate somewhere else. But I mean, you know what they say about you don't want to eat where you know, do your thing.
Spin.
Yeah, you don't want to eat where you spin. Yeah. Well, hold on.
Is
Concert
there
Buddy
a-
in the house. I got to thank you. Hit that like button. He hit the like button, and so should you. If you're not subscribed, good God, guys, why wouldn't you want to subscribe to this awesome content every Monday? We come at you with this stuff, Chris and I. Every other Thursday, we're coming at you with Surface Noise with a great group of people on the panel. And then I also release videos with you know him and love him, Brandon. You know him as Mr. Hall of Fame, the OG. And I'm always dropping videos with him as well. So yeah, thank you, Concert Buddy. Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I don't know if you've heard of this or if anybody watching knows. Is there a dispensary connected to a record store anyway? I guess they probably.
Well, somebody brought that up. Yeah, like ganja
yeah.
and records. I'm assuming that's what they meant. Oh, great! Chris just bailed on me. He heard there was a dispensary and record store, and he just like took off with the quickness. We'll see if he comes back. Let me go through some of these. What up, Gangstas? What up? Chance, appreciate you. Record store with a bar, coffee shop seems too hip. Yeah, well, we're very hip in the Portland area. So, hey, what's up? I think let me just go through the rest of these comments. Let's open a beer and half naked girl. Oh, whoa, keep it clean, easy now. This isn't Vegas. You probably get away with that in Vegas. Yeah, it's funny. You go to Vegas. I've been to Vegas one time, and you want to talk about culture shock. I didn't know what to expect. And so, but you go into, you guys know this if you've been there, you go into a regular restaurant and there's like naked women dancing on the table and stuff. I was like, where am I, dude? It was so weird. It was not a strip club. I promise. Places with snobby people usually have great records. Okay, there you go. I'm just here for the records.
Facts.
That's funny. Yeah, I don't want to let my my values of customer service get in my way of getting a good record. Easy Street, you got it. In fact, recommended by Chance. He must have felt me channeling him. That's right, Easy Street. That's the place in if you're ever in Seattle, check out Easy Street. And if you want some food, get some food there as well. Let's see. Snobby record shop owners don't want you to buy their great records. It seems like it. I believe Amoeba has a pot shop next door. Which one? We talking about Berkeley or San Francisco? I think those are the only two, right? I love Amoeba. That's where I grew up. I mean, I lived in the Bay Area, so I was at Rasputin's and Amoeba since I was a kid going into those places, and they're fantastic. I know people harsh on them now, but man, what great records I've gotten out of those stores over the years. Here in Atlanta, you can see boobs and eat world-class hot wings. Okay.
Wait, people are down on Amoeba?
No. But I've heard people in the past. I've had, people have said like, Amoeba sucks or whatever. Not sure why.
I'd like to go there. That would be fun. I know all of my friends like go on golf trips. I'm like, I'm gonna go on a record digging trip. That could be an item for the future.
I've never been to the New York area. I need to get out there and do some hunting. But dude, if you ever come to the West Coast, man, we can go all the way from SoCal up to Seattle and hit a ton of great stores.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Amoeba Hollywood. Okay, I forgot. Yeah, there's one there too. How do you get Frank's hot sauce off of a vinyl LP?
Put it in the humdinger.
The humdinger. Humdinger solves everything.
Well, Spins, it was a good night.
It was a good night. Our friends were here. Appreciate everybody.
Make sure you like and subscribe to Spins Vinyl channel. Follow him on Whatnot, Instagram, all of that good stuff. He's
all the socials.
He's worth a follow for sure.
Thank you, my friend. And Chris, thanks again, man. It's always fun to hang out with you. At least if he ignores my phone calls, at least I know I got him on Monday. So
that's not true. I'm gonna screenshot my phone log just to show you I don't ignore him.
Yeah, okay. You might have to white out some of that stuff. All right, you guys. Thanks, Vinyl and Kicks. Appreciate you. Thank you, Chris. Or Chance, thank you for being in the house. Cesar, as always, man. Old faithful, Cesar. Really appreciate you, man. From beginning to end, the man is always here. We love you. We love you. Boo Trader, thanks for being here again. Easy Now, thank you. Try to get to everybody if I can. Wyoming Dave,
Kicks.
As always, my friend. Vinyl and Kicks, thank you so much. Music in the house. Thank you so much. If you guys are still here, Perfect Prescription, as always. Thank you, man. Always good to see you. Thanks, everybody. If I left you out, I'm sorry. We still love you. And we will see you guys next Monday for another episode of Your Brain on Vinyl. But also catch us on Thursdays on Surface Noise. So we'll see you there as well. All right, you guys. As Perfect Prescription said, cheers. Have a good night.
Peace.